This boy is standing face to face with a giant snake at the zoo. But the scary part isn't the snake, it's the fact that he isn't afraid at all. Instead, he leans in and whispers to it. And somehow the snake responds. Yes, this boy can actually talk to snakes. Suddenly, his overweight cousin shoved them aside, trying to steal his spot. But no one realizes, in just a few seconds, everything is about to change. Something strange happens. No noise, no warning. The glass barrier vanishes. The massive snake slowly slithers out, free at last. Before disappearing, it turns back, almost as if it's saying, thank you. And in that moment, a truth is revealed. This boy is not ordinary. He is Harry Potter. And this is the beginning of one of the greatest cinematic stories ever told.
On a quiet, shadowy night along Private Drive, an elderly man walked calmly down the street, using a peculiar device to extinguish each streetlight one by one. Darkness settled in completely. Nearby, a tabby cat appeared, none other than Professor McGonagall. Moments later, a giant of a man with wild hair descended from the sky on a flying motorbike. It was Hagrid. In his arms, he carried a baby. The three of them made a decision to leave the child with the Dursleys, a perfectly ordinary Muggle family. Dumbledore placed a letter beside the baby, while Hagrid stood wiping away his tears. The child had a lightning-shaped scar on his forehead. His name was Harry Potter. In what felt like the blink of an eye, Harry grew up. A chubby boy, Dudley, Harry's cousin, was stomping loudly on the stairs above the cupboard where Harry slept. Every morning began the same way. Harry waking early to prepare breakfast for the entire family. Today was Dudley's birthday, but he was furious. 36 presents? He shouted. That's one less than last year. His parents quickly comforted him, promising to buy more. Soon after, the family set off for the zoo. At the reptile house, Dudley tried to wake a large snake, but failed and wandered off. Harry stayed behind, and suddenly discovered something impossible. He could talk to the snake, and it understood him. At that very moment, Dudley came back, saw the snake moving, and shoved Harry aside before pressing himself against the glass. Harry felt anger surge inside him. And suddenly, the glass vanished. Dudley fell straight into the enclosure. The snake slithered out, whispered its thanks, and disappeared into the crowd, sending everyone into panic. Moments later, the glass reappeared, this time trapping Dudley inside. Back home, Uncle Vernon grabbed Harry by the hair, demanding answers. But Harry himself didn't understand what had happened. He was locked away, while Vernon muttered angrily. Then came a letter, delivered by an owl, addressed to Harry. Vernon tore it to pieces, but more letters came, and more. Soon, dozens of owls gathered outside. Then hundreds of letters flooded down the chimney, shaking the house and sending the family into chaos. Harry managed to grab one, only to have it snatched away again. Unable to endure it any longer, the Dursleys fled to a lonely hut in the middle of the sea. At midnight, on Harry's 11th birthday. Crash. The door burst open. Hagrid stepped inside. With ease, he bent Vernon's shotgun. He glanced at Dudley, mistaking him for Harry, but Harry quickly spoke up. Hagrid smiled and handed him a slightly squashed homemade birthday cake. With a flick of his umbrella, he lit the fireplace, leaving everyone speechless. Harry asked who he was. I'm the keeper of keys and grounds at Hogwarts, Hagrid replied. For the first time, Harry heard about the wizarding world, and he didn't believe it until Hagrid handed him his Hogwarts acceptance letter. He also revealed a shocking truth Aunt Petunia had always known. The Dursleys had hidden everything out of jealousy toward Harry's mother. They had lied, claiming his parents died in a car crash. When Vernon insulted Dumbledore, Hagrid lost his temper. With a flick of his umbrella, Dudley suddenly grew a pig's tail. Then Hagrid turned to Harry. Stay here, or come with me. Harry didn't hesitate. I'll come. Hagrid took him shopping for school supplies. They stopped at the Leaky Cauldron, where the chatter fell silent the moment people heard the name Harry Potter. One by one, they stepped forward to shake his hand. Harry was stunned by his fame. Hagrid tapped a brick wall, and it shifted, revealing Diagon Alley, a magical street filled with wonders, quills, spell tools, and broomsticks like the Nimbus 2000. Harry worried he had no money, but at Gringotts Bank, run by goblins, Hagrid led him to Vault 687, filled with gold belonging to the Potter family. Harry was overwhelmed. Then they visited Vault 713 to retrieve a mysterious package for Dumbledore. Hagrid warned Harry to tell no one. Next came Ollivander's. The wand shop owner recognized Harry instantly. As he searched for the right wand, he spoke of Harry's parents, who had once stood in the very same shop. One wand chaos, another worse. But the third. The moment Harry held it, a warm light burst forth. Ollivander explained that the wand contained a phoenix feather, and that feather had a twin. The twin wand had given Harry his scar, and belonged to the one everyone feared to name. He believed Harry was destined for greatness. Hagrid later returned with a snowy owl as Harry's birthday gift. That night, Harry asked about the one who killed his parents. Reluctantly, Hagrid spoke the name, Voldemort, a dark wizard who had once spread terror across the wizarding world. Harry's parents had stood against him and died. But when Voldemort tried to kill Harry, something extraordinary happened. The curse rebounded. Harry survived. And that was how he became famous. The next morning, at the train station, Hagrid handed Harry his ticket and told him to find platform 9 3/4 before rushing off. Harry was confused. No one took him seriously. Then he overheard a family mention the platform and followed them. To his amazement, they ran straight through a wall. Encouraged by Mrs. Molly Weasley, Harry gathered his courage and ran forward. And passed through. Inside was a bustling platform, and the Hogwarts Express waiting to depart. A red-haired boy named Ron Weasley joined Harry in his compartment. When he realized who Harry was, he was amazed and curious about the scar. Harry shared his sweets, and the two quickly became friends. Later, a girl named Hermione Granger entered, looking for Neville Longbottom's toad. She fixed Harry's glasses and reminded them about studying before leaving. Upon arrival, Hagrid led the students by lantern light to small boats that carried them across the lake toward Hogwarts Castle. Professor McGonagall introduced the 4 houses, Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, and Slytherin. While waiting, Draco Malfoy arrogantly offered his friendship, but Harry refused. In the Great Hall, Dumbledore welcomed everyone and warned about forbidden places like the Forbidden Forest and the third-floor corridor. Then the sorting ceremony began. One by one, students were placed into their houses. Hermione, Gryffindor. Draco, Slytherin. Then came Harry's turn. The entire hall fell silent. At last. Gryffindor. Cheers erupted across the hall. And so, Harry's journey truly began. The feast began as countless dishes appeared magically on the long tables. As they ate, Harry asked about Professor Snape, the cold and intimidating potions master. Later, the students returned to their common room, where a portrait demanded a password before swinging open to reveal the dormitory. That night, most fell asleep quickly. Only Harry remained awake, along with his snowy owl Hedwig, wrapped in a strange mix of wonder and loneliness. The next morning, Harry and Ron nearly arrived late, but just in time to witness Professor McGonagall's impressive transfiguration. In potions class, Snape entered with icy authority, firing difficult questions at Harry, who couldn't answer, despite Hermione eagerly raising her hand again and again. Later, as owls delivered mail to everyone else, Harry received nothing. Borrowing Ron's newspaper, he discovered shocking news. Gringotts had been broken into, specifically Vault 713. The very one he had visited. During their first flying lesson with Madame Hooch, the students learned to control their broomsticks. Harry showed natural talent, but Neville Longbottom flew too high and fell, injuring himself. Seizing the moment, Draco Malfoy grabbed Neville's Remembrall and took off, taunting him. Harry gave chase. In a breathtaking dive, he caught the Remembrall midair. The entire scene was witnessed by Professor McGonagall. Harry expected punishment. Instead, she recruited him for the Gryffindor Quidditch team as seeker, making him the youngest player in a century. Though excited, Harry grew nervous after hearing how dangerous Quidditch could be. Hermione reassured him that his father, James Potter, had been an excellent seeker. On their way back, a shifting staircase led Harry, Ron, and Hermione to the forbidden third floor. Suddenly, Filch's cat, Mrs. Norris, appeared. They fled, and Hermione quickly unlocked a door with a spell. Inside, a massive, 3-headed dog. The creature snarled. They slammed the door shut in terror. Hermione realized it was guarding something important. At the Quidditch pitch, Oliver would explain the rules. 7 players per team. Chasers, a keeper, 2 beaters, and a seeker, the one who must catch the golden snitch, the tiny lightning fastball that decides the game. In Charms class, while practicing levitation, Ron struggled repeatedly, while Hermione succeeded instantly. After Ron mocked her, Hermione ran off in tears. That night, during dinner, chaos erupted. A troll had entered the castle. Dumbledore ordered all students back to their dormitories, while teachers rushed to handle the situation. But Harry and Ron remembered. Hermione was still in the bathroom. They ran back. They found her just as the troll burst in, smashing everything in sight. Harry and Ron tried to distract it, but nothing worked. In a desperate move, Harry climbed onto the troll's back and jammed his wand up its nose. At that moment, Ron managed to cast a spell. The troll's club flew up and struck its own head. It collapsed. When the teachers arrived, it was over. Hermione took the blame to protect them, and all three were rewarded with points for Gryffindor. Soon after, Harry noticed Snape limping. His suspicion grew. Had Snape released the troll as a distraction? Was he trying to get past the three-headed dog? And was it connected to the mysterious object from Gringotts? Just then, Hedwig delivered a gift. A Nimbus 2000 broomstick, sent by Professor McGonagall. The next day, the Quidditch match between Gryffindor and Slytherin began. The crowd roared as players soared through the sky. Gryffindor scored quickly, but Slytherin played rough and caught up. Harry focused on the snitch. Then suddenly, his broom went wild. Below, Hermione noticed Snape muttering under his breath. Suspecting foul play, she set his robes on fire, breaking his concentration. Harry regained control. He sped forward and caught the snitch in his mouth. Gryffindor won. The stadium erupted in cheers. Afterward, Harry, Ron, and Hermione continued to suspect Snape. They questioned Hagrid and learned that the three-headed dog was named Fluffy, his pet. Hagrid insisted Snape wasn't evil, but they remained unconvinced. Winter arrived. Snow blanketed Hogwarts. Harry and Ron played wizard's chess, while Hermione searched tirelessly for the name Nicholas Flamel. On Christmas morning, Harry received an anonymous gift. An invisibility cloak. His father's cloak. That night, Harry slipped into the restricted section of a library. When he opened a book, it screamed, forcing him to flee. While escaping, he stumbled upon Snape confronting Professor Quirrell. Moments later, Harry found himself in a room with a mysterious mirror. In it, he saw his parents, alive, standing behind him. But when he turned, no one was there. The next day, Ron saw something different in the mirror, himself as a champion. It was the mirror of Erist, showing one's deepest desire. When Harry returned again, Dumbledore appeared and warned him. The mirror shows dreams, not reality, and can drive a person mad. At last, Hermione uncovered the truth. Nicholas Flamel was the creator of the Philosopher's Stone, a legendary object capable of granting immortality and turning metal into gold. That same night, they visited Hagrid and witnessed a dragon egg hatch. But Draco saw everything and reported it. As punishment, they lost points and were sent to detention in the Forbidden Forest. In the forest, they discovered the body of a slain unicorn. Splitting up, Harry encountered a dark figure drinking its blood. Pain shot through his scar. Before the creature could reach him, a centaur appeared and drove it away. The centaur revealed the truth. The one drinking unicorn blood was Voldemort. He was trying to survive and regain power. Harry realized something else. The stranger who gave Hagrid the dragon egg had tricked him into revealing how to get past Fluffy. The stone was in danger. Hagrid had once mentioned music could lull Fluffy to sleep. Realizing this, the trio rushed to warn Professor McGonagall, but Dumbledore had already left for London. There was no time. They had to act themselves. That night, Neville tried to stop them, afraid of losing more points. Hermione had no choice but to cast a spell to hold him in place. Under the invisibility cloak, the trio approached Fluffy. The dog slept beside a harp. Someone had already been there. As they opened the trapdoor, Fluffy awoke. They jumped down just in time. Below them lay Devil's Snare, tightening around anyone who struggled. Hermione quickly told them to relax. Harry and Hermione escaped, but Ron panicked and was nearly crushed before they saved him. Next came a room filled with flying keys. Harry spotted the one with torn wings, mounted a broom, and chased it down. After a frantic pursuit, he caught it and tossed it to Hermione, who unlocked the door just in time. Then came a giant chessboard. Ron took command, directing the pieces like a true strategist. But in the final move, he had to sacrifice himself. He was struck down, allowing Harry to continue. Harry pressed on alone. He found Professor Quirrell standing before the mirror of Erist. Then came the truth. Quirrell had cursed the broom. Quirrell had let the troll in. Snape had been trying to protect Harry all along. Then Quirrell removed his turban and revealed the face of Voldemort on the back of his head. Forced to use the mirror, Harry saw himself retrieving the stone and realized it was now in his pocket. Voldemort tempted him with promises of bringing his parents back, but Harry refused. Quirrell attacked. But when Harry touched him, his flesh burned. Harry fought back. Quirrell's body crumbled to dust. Voldemort's spirit fled. Harry collapsed. When he awoke, he was in the hospital wing. Dumbledore stood beside him. Ron and Hermione were safe. The stone had been destroyed. Only someone who wanted to find it, but not use it, could obtain it. And Harry survived because of his mother's love, a protection stronger than magic itself. At the end-of-year feast, Slytherin stood victorious, until Dumbledore awarded last-minute points. To Hermione for brilliance, to Ron for courage, to Harry for bravery, and to Neville for standing up for what was right. Gryffindor won the House Cup. The Great Hall erupted in red and gold. Cheers filled the air. Draco fumed, and Hagrid beamed with pride. The school year came to an end, and the students boarded the Hogwarts Express for the journey home. Before leaving, Hagrid handed Harry a small, carefully made photo album, filled with pictures of his parents and their memories. Harry held it close, deeply moved in a way he had never felt before. As the train pulled away, Harry said his goodbyes to Ron and Hermione, knowing this was only the beginning. Ahead lay a new summer and countless adventures yet to come. End of Part 1. Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. Every night, Harry Potter begins to hear strange whispers echoing through the halls, voices hissing one terrifying word: kill, kill, kill. Drawn by the chilling sound, he follows it deep into the castle, only to discover that one of his closest friends has been mysteriously turned to stone. Behind that sinister voice lies something far more dangerous, a legendary monster hidden within Hogwarts itself. What is this creature, and who is controlling it? Let's uncover the mystery together. Harry is spending his summer holiday at the Dursleys' house. In his cramped little room, he quietly opens the photo album Hagrid gave him, his eyes softening as memories of the magical world come rushing back. Hedwig, locked in her cage and unable to fly, begins to protest with irritated hoots, immediately giving Uncle Vernon an excuse to storm in and yell at Harry. Trying to help, Harry politely asks if Hedwig can go out for a bit of fresh air, but Vernon coldly refuses. Since the holidays began, Harry hasn't received a single letter from Ron or Hermione, leaving him feeling lonely and abandoned. Meanwhile, Dudley keeps mocking him, pushing Harry deeper into frustration. The Dursleys are preparing to host an important guest for a major business deal, so Harry, knowing his place, offers to stay quietly in his room. But the moment he steps inside, he freezes. There's a strange creature sitting on his bed. It's a house elf, Dobby. Dobby bows nervously, his trembling voice catching Harry completely off guard. He's so overwhelmed by Harry's kindness that he bursts into tears, saying no one has ever treated him well before. But whenever he accidentally reveals too much about his master, he punishes himself, banging his head against the wall and furniture, making loud noises that attract attention downstairs. Dobby warns Harry not to return to Hogwarts, insisting a terrible danger awaits him. Harry presses for answers, but Dobby cannot reveal anything, and the more he tries, the more he harms himself. Forced to act, Harry pulls him away and locks him in the wardrobe just as Uncle Vernon storms upstairs. Soon, Harry discovers the truth. Dobby has been intercepting all his letters from Ron and Hermione to stop him from going back to school. Furious, Harry chases after him, but Dobby escapes downstairs. When Harry refuses to agree with him, Dobby snaps his fingers, and magic erupts instantly. A large pudding meant for the guests rises into the air. Harry lunges forward in panic, but it's too late. The dessert crashes straight onto the guest's head. In the next instant, Dobby vanishes, leaving chaos behind. The Dursleys' business deal is ruined. Vernon goes berserk, locking Harry in his room, sealing the windows with bars, and forbidding him from ever returning to Hogwarts, or having anything to do with abnormal things again. That night, as silence falls, Harry hears strange noises outside his window. Putting on his glasses, he spots what looks like a moving star. But as it gets closer, he realizes it's not a star. It's a flying car. Inside are Ron and his brothers, Fred and George Weasley. They've come to rescue him. Without hesitation, Harry packs his things, ties them up, and lowers them out the window. When the Dursleys discover what's happening and rush upstairs, chaos erupts. Harry climbs into the car, but Uncle Vernon grabs his leg, trying to pull him back. In the struggle, Ron accelerates, sending Vernon tumbling into the bushes below. The car shoots into the sky, carrying Harry away at last. The next morning, they arrive at the Weasleys' home. Inside, everything is magical. Dishes wash themselves. A clock shows each family member's location, and knitting needles move on their own. Ginny is busy fussing about, while Percy is preoccupied with his duties. Mrs. Molly Weasley rushes out, furious at first for the boys stealing the flying car, ready to scold them harshly. But the moment she sees Harry, her expression softens instantly, and she warmly welcomes him. Mr. Arthur Weasley returns home and hears the story. Instead of getting angry, he excitedly asks Harry what it felt like to fly the car, lightening the mood. A school owl soon arrives, delivering letters from Hogwarts, including Harry's supply list for the new school year. The Weasleys decide to take Harry to Diagon Alley using Floo powder. One by one, they step into the fireplace, toss the powder, and clearly state their destination before vanishing in green flames. When it's Harry's turn, nervousness gets the better of him. He mispronounces Diagon Alley as Nocturne Alley, and is instantly transported to a dark, grim, and dusty place filled with sinister objects. Inside a creepy shop filled with skulls and strange artifacts, Harry curiously touches a cursed hand, only for it to suddenly grab him. Panicked, he yanks himself free, his heart racing. Stepping outside, he's surrounded by shady figures with unsettling stares. Just in time, Hagrid appears, pulling him away from danger and bringing him back to Diagon Alley. There, Harry reunites with Hermione, who runs up happily and fixes his broken glasses. Together, they find the Weasley family, all gathered once again. At the bookstore, they encounter Gilderoy Lockhart, a flashy celebrity in the wizarding world. Spotting Harry, Lockhart immediately drags him in front of the cameras, claiming Harry is his biggest fan, and gifts him a full set of his own books. Mrs. Weasley eagerly collects the books for autographs, while outside, the children run into Draco Malfoy, who wastes no time mocking Harry and the Weasleys. On the day of departure, Harry and Ron are unable to pass through the barrier to platform 9 3/4. With no other option, they decide to fly the enchanted car to Hogwarts. High above the ground, the car begins to shake violently, swaying uncontrollably. Harry nearly falls out, barely managing to cling to the door handle. With all his strength, Ron pulls him back in, saving him at the last second. They follow the Hogwarts Express from above, thinking everything is finally under control. But suddenly, the car begins to shake violently, spinning out of control and losing its brakes. Ron tries to use his wand, but before he can do anything, it snaps clean in half. Moments later, the car plummets straight down, crashing violently into the towering Whomping Willow. Instantly, the tree comes alive. Its massive branches lash out, smashing against the car with terrifying ukua, shattering the windows and crushing the body of the vehicle. Panic sets in as the boys realize the tree is trying to kill them. A thick branch punches through the car, nearly knocking them out. Ron desperately restarts the engine and slams his foot on the gas, barely escaping before they're completely flattened. The moment they reach the school grounds, they're caught by caretaker Argus Filch and dragged straight to the office. Professor Snape presents a newspaper featuring a photo of the flying car. At least 7 muggles have seen it. Worse still, their crash has damaged the ancient Whomping Willow. Snape demands their expulsion, but just then, Professor Dumbledore steps in. He calmly reminds everyone that they belong to Gryffindor, meaning only Professor McGonagall has the authority to decide their punishment. In the end, Harry and Ron are let off with detention, and a letter sent home to their families. The new school year begins. In their herbology lesson inside the greenhouse, students are tasked with repotting mandrakes, magical plants used to create a potion that can cure petrification. However, their screams are deadly if heard directly. Thanks to Hermione's brilliant answers, Gryffindor earns points. But not everyone is as careful. One reckless student gets bitten when handling the plant improperly. At lunch, Ron tries to tape his broken wand back together. Suddenly, an owl crashes awkwardly into the hall. It's the Weasley family owl. The moment Ron opens the letter, it transforms into a giant mouth, a howler. Mrs. Molly's voice explodes through the hall, furiously scolding Ron for getting the family investigated. By the end, she warmly congratulates Ginny on her first day at school, before the letter bursts into flames and disappears. Gilderoy Lockhart is now the defense against the dark arts teacher. Though he carries himself like a celebrity, many are already skeptical of him. In his first lesson, Lockhart proudly announces he will teach them how to handle the most dangerous creatures in the wizarding world. But when he opens the cage, it's just a swarm of tiny Cornish pixies. Moments later, he releases them, and chaos erupts. The pixies fly wildly around the classroom, causing destruction everywhere. They even grab Neville and hang him from the chandelier. Students scream and scatter. Harry has to smack one away from Hermione with a book. Lockhart tries to intervene, but immediately loses his wand to the creatures. The pixies snap ropes, sending a giant skeleton crashing down. Seeing the situation spiral out of control, Lockhart simply flees, abandoning the class. In the end, Hermione steps in, casting a freezing charm that immobilizes all the pixies. The next day, Oliver takes Harry out for Quidditch training ahead of the upcoming match. But when they reach the field, they find the Slytherin team already there, training their new seeker, Draco Malfoy. The reason is obvious. Malfoy's father has donated brand new, top-of-the-line broomsticks to the entire team. Ron and Hermione protest angrily. Malfoy retaliates by insulting Hermione, calling her a mudblood. Furious, Ron tries to curse him, but with his broken wand, the spell backfires, causing Ron to vomit up giant slugs. Harry and Hermione rush him to Hagrid. With no immediate cure, Ron is left clutching a bucket, helplessly retching. Hermione is visibly shaken by the insult, but Hagrid gently reassures her. True talent has nothing to do with bloodline. That night, Harry helps Lockhart respond to fan mail. Suddenly, he hears a strange whispering voice, but Lockhart hears nothing and dismisses it as imagination. On the way back, the whisper returns. Harry follows the sound and runs into Ron and Hermione, but they hear nothing. Still, they trust him and follow. Together, they notice a line of spiders crawling away from a window. Then they see it, a message written in blood across the wall. The Chamber of Secrets has been opened. Enemies of the air, beware. Beside it hangs Filch's cat, rigid, lifeless, petrified. Students gather in shock. Filch immediately accuses Harry, even attempting to attack him. Just in time, Dumbledore arrives and confirms the cat is not dead, only petrified, and can be saved. He orders everyone back to their dormitories. Harry insists he's innocent, but Snape remains suspicious, pointing out that Harry wasn't in the Great Hall earlier. Fortunately, Lockhart steps in to vouch for him. The next day, in Transfiguration class, Professor McGonagall demonstrates by turning a bird into a goblet. Ron attempts the same, but with his broken wand, he transforms a rat into a goblet, with a tail. Hermione raises a question about the Chamber of Secrets. After a pause, McGonagall explains, centuries ago, Hogwarts was founded by 4 great wizards. But Salazar Slytherin believed only pure-blood students should be admitted, and eventually left the school. Legend says he built a hidden chamber deep within the castle. Only his true heir can open it and release the monster that lies within. The chamber was said to exist for one purpose, to purge those of impure blood. Convinced that Draco Malfoy might be the heir of Slytherin, Harry, Ron, and Hermione devise a plan to get close to his friends and extract the truth. Hermione discovers a solution, the Polyjuice Potion, a powerful brew that allows the drinker to transform into someone else. But the process is incredibly complex, taking an entire month to complete. The Quidditch season opens with a roaring match. Oliver launches the quaffle, and the Gryffindor team surges forward. One player nearly scores, only to be blocked at the last second. Slytherin counters swiftly, taking the lead. Malfoy seems more interested in taunting Harry than actually playing. Suddenly, a rogue bludger, clearly enchanted, locks onto Harry and rockets toward him. He barely dodges, but a teammate behind him is struck and sent crashing down. The bludger doesn't stop. It relentlessly chases Harry across the field. He twists and dives, weaving through the air, but the cursed ball refuses to let up. From the stands, Hagrid watches through binoculars, desperate to help, but afraid he might make things worse. The bludger tears through the stadium, smashing anything in its path, fixated on Harry. Distracted by the pursuit, Harry nearly slams into the stands. Meanwhile, Malfoy swoops in, laughing and jeering. Then, Harry spots it, the golden snitch. He dodges the bludger and surges forward. Both he and Malfoy dive beneath the stands in pursuit. The bludger crashes through beams and wood behind them, splintering everything. Within seconds, Harry overtakes Malfoy. Furious, Malfoy tries to keep up, but it's too late. Suddenly, the bludger changes direction, cutting Harry off. He narrowly avoids it, but Malfoy isn't so lucky. He crashes hard into the structure and breaks his arm, leaving his father in the stands humiliated. Harry reaches out for the snitch, but the bludger slams into his arm, sending him spinning. Still, with his other hand, he manages to grab the snitch, securing victory for Gryffindor. But the danger isn't over. The bludger continues its assault, smashing into the ground around him. Hermione rushes in and casts a spell, blowing the cursed ball apart. Lockhart confidently steps forward to heal Harry, but after casting his spell, Harry's bones vanish completely, leaving his arm limp like rubber. Harry is rushed to the hospital wing. That night, the whispering voice returns. As Harry searches for its source, Dobby suddenly appears. This time, Harry learns the truth. It was Dobby who sealed the barrier at platform 9 3/4 and bewitched the bludger to attack him. Furious, Harry tries to drive him away, but Dobby insists he never meant harm. He's bound to obey his master. Only if he's given clothing can he be freed. Before Harry can press further, someone enters. With a snap of his fingers, Dobby disappears. It's Dumbledore. They bring in Colin Creevey, petrified, and lay him on a bed. Suspecting he may have captured something before the attack, Dumbledore opens Colin's camera. But it suddenly explodes. Grave and calm, Dumbledore announces, "The Chamber of Secrets has been opened once again. Hogwarts is no longer safe." The next day, Harry tells Ron and Hermione everything. They believe that whoever opened the chamber in the past was tied to Salazar Slytherin, and that this time it might be Malfoy. Hermione continues brewing the potion. Suddenly, Moaning Myrtle appears, introducing herself before bursting into tears and disappearing back into a toilet. That evening, Lockhart starts a dueling club to teach students self-defense. He invites Snape to demonstrate, but with a single spell, Snape blasts Lockhart across the room. Then comes Harry versus Malfoy. Before Lockhart can even finish counting, Malfoy attacks early. Enraged, Harry fires back, knocking him down. Snape helps Malfoy up, and Malfoy retaliates by summoning a snake. Lockhart tries to intervene, but only manages to fling it uselessly aside. The snake turns, ready to strike another student. And then, something impossible happens. Harry speaks. In Parseltongue, the language of snakes, he commands it to stop. Snape quickly destroys the snake, but the damage is done. The entire hall stares at Harry in fear. Only those descended from Slytherin can speak Parseltongue. Whispers spread. Could Harry be the heir of Slytherin? Confused and shaken, Harry walks away. In the corridor, the whisper returns, closer than ever. Kill, kill. Following the voice, Harry discovers nearly headless Nick and another student, both petrified. Malfoy appears at once, wasting no time accusing Harry. Professor McGonagall takes Harry straight to Dumbledore's office. Inside, Harry sees the Phoenix Fox and the Sorting Hat. Dumbledore tells him something unsettling. Harry does possess qualities of Slytherin, but in the end, it is his choices that define who he truly is. At that moment, Fawkes suddenly bursts into flames, reduced to ashes. Harry is horrified, but Dumbledore remains calm, explaining gently. A phoenix burns when it reaches the end of its life and is reborn from its own ashes. Phoenixes are extraordinary creatures. They can carry immense weight, and their tears possess powerful healing abilities. From the pile of ashes, a tiny head slowly emerges. Fawkes is reborn. The young phoenix lies there, turning to look at Harry, as if silently asking whether he has something to say. But Harry remains quiet, hiding the thoughts swirling in his mind. Winter arrives, blanketing Hogwarts in snow. Students travel across the grounds in carriages. During a meal, Hermione hands Harry and Ron a pair of cakes laced with sleeping potion. Her plan is simple. Feed them to Crabbe and Goyle, knock them out, and steal their hair and clothes. Ron instinctively reaches for his broken wand, but Harry quickly stops him. Instead, Harry uses magic to levitate the cakes right in front of the two gluttons. Without suspicion, they devour them, and instantly collapse to the floor. The plan is in motion. Harry and Ron drag them into a storage room, take their hair and clothes, then rush to the bathroom where Hermione waits. The Polyjuice potion is ready, 3 cups, steaming. Harry drinks first. His face begins to swell, his body twisting and reshaping, until he becomes Crabbe. Ron transforms into Goyle, but Hermione tells them to go ahead without her. She'll stay behind. The two make their way into the Slytherin common room. Inside, they run into Draco Malfoy. Malfoy starts ranting about Dumbledore, and Harry nearly loses control, almost revealing himself. Forcing himself to stay calm, he carefully asks Malfoy if he knows who the heir of Slytherin is. But surprisingly, Malfoy has no idea. All he knows is that 50 years ago, someone opened the Chamber of Secrets, causing a student's death before being expelled. Just then, the potion begins to wear off. Harry's scar starts to reappear. Ron's red hair returns. Panicking, they quickly make excuses and rush out. Back in the bathroom, they discover the problem. Hermione took the wrong hair. Instead of transforming into a human, she has turned into a cat. With no other choice, they rush her to the hospital wing. Later, Harry notices water flooding the corridor. Following it, he enters a bathroom and hears someone crying. It's moaning Myrtle. She complains that someone threw a book at her. Harry spots the soaked book lying in the water and takes it back to his dorm. When he opens it, every page is blank, except for a name on the back cover. Tom Riddle. Curious, Harry writes, "My name is Harry Potter." The ink vanishes and new words appear. "Hello, Harry. I am Tom Riddle." When Harry asks about the Chamber of Secrets, Tom offers to show him the past, 50 years ago. The diary glows and pulls Harry inside. He finds himself walking through the corridors of Hogwarts, watching Tom from afar, yet unable to interact with him. Professors carry away the body of a dead student. Dumbledore questions Tom, though he doesn't seem entirely convinced. Harry follows Tom through twisting hallways into a hidden room, where Tom accuses Hagrid of raising a monster responsible for the death. A giant spider emerges from a chest. Before Harry can react, he's suddenly pulled back into reality. He immediately tells Ron and Hermione everything. They refuse to believe Hagrid could be guilty. But right then, Hagrid appears behind them. He insists he's been trying to save the victims. Suddenly, Neville rushes in with shocking news. Their dormitory has been ransacked, and Tom Riddle's diary is gone. The next day, Quidditch is cancelled. McGonagall takes Harry and Ron to the hospital wing. Hermione has been petrified. She was found near the library, still clutching a small mirror. The school imposes strict curfew rules. No student is allowed outside after 6 without a teacher. Hogwarts now stands on the brink of closure if the culprit isn't found. That night, under the invisibility cloak, Harry and Ron sneak out to visit Hagrid. They try to ask him about the chamber. But before he can answer, Dumbledore and the Minister of Magic, Cornelius Fudge, arrive. Hagrid is arrested, suspected of being behind the attacks. Before leaving, he drops a final clue. Follow the spiders. Harry notices a trail of spiders crawling out the window. Without hesitation, he and Ron follow them straight into the Forbidden Forest. The deeper they go, the more spiders appear. Ron, terrified, wants to turn back, but Harry pushes forward into the darkness. Inside a massive web-filled hollow, they come face to face with Aragog, a gigantic spider. Aragog reveals the truth. Hagrid is innocent. The creature in the castle is something ancient, something even spiders fear. Suddenly, hundreds of spiders swarm in, surrounding them. Aragog does nothing to stop his offspring, just when all hope seems lost. The flying car bursts through the trees. It crashes into the spiders, rescuing them just in time. But before Ron can relax, another spider lunges at him. Harry quickly blasts it away. The car carries them out of the forest, then drives off on its own, disappearing back into the shadows. In the following days, Harry and Ron visit Hermione constantly. One day, as Harry holds her hand, he notices something. A piece of paper clutched tightly in her fingers. And suddenly, it all makes sense. The monster in the chamber is a basilisk. Its victims weren't killed because they never looked at it directly. They only saw it through reflections. Harry also realizes something else. The girl who died 50 years ago was Myrtle. At that moment, they hear teachers gathering on the second floor. When they rush over, they learn the horrifying truth. A student has been taken into the Chamber of Secrets. Ginny Weasley. Snape demands that Lockhart step in and help, but instead, the man tries to run. Harry and Ron rush to Lockhart's office to warn him, only to find him packing his belongings. Cornered, Lockhart finally confesses the truth. He's nothing but a fraud. Every heroic story he ever told was stolen from others. Desperate to protect his secret, he raises his wand, ready to erase their memories. But Harry and Ron react faster, overpowering him. With no time to waste, the three of them race to Moaning Myrtle's bathroom, the hidden entrance to the Chamber of Secrets. Myrtle explains that while she was hiding there, crying, she heard a strange noise. When she looked up, she saw a pair of enormous yellow eyes in the sink, and then she died. Harry steps closer and notices a tiny snake engraved on the faucet. Without hesitation, he speaks in Parseltongue. The moment the words leave his lips, the sink splits apart, revealing a dark pipe spiraling deep underground. Lockhart tries to seize the chance to escape, but Harry and Ron force him to go first. One by one, they jump. They slide down a long, twisting pipe, slick, endless, and terrifying, until they crash into a chamber littered with bones. Moving deeper inside, they discover something chilling, a massive, shed snakeskin, far larger than anything imaginable. Suddenly, Lockhart collapses, pretending to faint. Then, in a flash, he grabs Ron's wand. He tries once more to wipe their memories. But the wand is broken, and the spell backfires violently. The tunnel collapses, sealing Ron off from Harry. Lockhart is struck by his own magic, his mind wiped completely, reduced to a confused, empty shell. With no choice left, Harry tells Ron to stay behind, and ventures forward alone. He reaches a massive door carved with serpents. Again, he speaks in Parseltongue. The stone snakes slither aside, opening the path. Harry climbs down into the chamber. On either side, towering statues of snake heads loom over him. At the far end of the hall, Ginny lies motionless. He calls out to her, but she doesn't respond. Then, a voice echoes behind him. Tom Riddle steps out of the shadows. At last, the truth is revealed. Tom has been controlling Ginny all along, forcing her to open the chamber, unleash the monster, and write the messages on the walls. When she realized what she had done, she tried to destroy the diary by throwing it away, but fate brought it into Harry's hands. Tom admits something even darker. He was the one who framed Hagrid 50 years ago. Knowing he could never deceive Dumbledore forever, he preserved a memory of himself at 16 inside the diary. Slowly, he rearranges the letters of his name in the air. Tom Marvolo Riddle. Then, the truth emerges. I am Lord Voldemort. Tom Riddle is Voldemort in his younger form. At that moment, a burst of light fills the chamber. Fawkes the Phoenix arrives, carrying the old sorting hat. Tom smiles coldly and summons the basilisk. A colossal serpent slithers forward, its deadly fangs dripping with venom. Harry turns and runs, but trips and falls. In a flash, Fawkes dives in, pecking out the basilisk's eyes, blinding the monster. Even blind, the creature hunts by sound. Harry scrambles through narrow paths beneath the pipes, fleeing desperately, until he hits a dead end. Turning back, he comes face to face with the massive head of the basilisk. Holding his breath, Harry grabs a stone and throws it aside. The sound distracts the beast, buying him a second to escape. He rushes back to Ginny. Tom's voice is calm, almost pleased. When Ginny dies, Voldemort will rise again. Suddenly, the basilisk lunges once more. At that exact moment, something appears inside the sorting hat. A silver sword. Harry pulls it free and climbs onto a stone statue. The basilisk strikes again and again, nearly knocking him off. He swings wildly, landing several blows, but is still thrown aside. The sword slips. Harry lunges, catching it at the last second, and drives it straight through the basilisk's skull. The monster lets out a deafening scream before collapsing, dead. But victory comes at a cost. A fang sinks deep into Harry's arm. The venom spreads quickly. Harry pulls the fang free and collapses beside Ginny. Tom believes he has already won. But then, Harry sees the diary, still in Ginny's hand. With his remaining strength, he grabs the basilisk fang and plunges it into the pages. Black ink spills out like blood. Tom's body begins to tear apart, a hole forming through him as he slowly fades. Harry stabs again and again until Tom Riddle vanishes completely. Silence. Ginny suddenly gasps, awakening. Harry, weakening fast from the venom, tells her to run to find Ron. But before she can move, Fawkes lands beside him. The Phoenix looks at Harry and begins to cry. The Phoenix's tears fall onto Harry's wound, and instantly the venom is gone. His arm heals as if nothing had ever happened. Moments later, Fawkes spreads his wings. With incredible strength, he carries Harry, Ron, Ginny, and even Lockhart back up through the chamber and into the light. When they return to Hogwarts, Dumbledore speaks calmly. By all rights, Harry and Ron should be expelled. But instead, he chooses to reward them, for they are the ones who saved the school. He instructs Ron to send the necessary documents to the Ministry, clearing Hagrid's name and securing his release. When Hagrid returns, he thanks Harry deeply for believing in him when no one else would. Dumbledore adds that it was this very loyalty that allowed Harry to summon Fawkes in the first place. Still, Harry can't shake a troubling thought. He admits that he and Tom Riddle share certain similarities. Dumbledore explains gently, on the night Voldemort gave Harry his scar, a fragment of his power may have been transferred to the boy. That is why the sorting had once considered placing him in Slytherin. But Harry made a choice. He chose Gryffindor. And that choice is what sets him apart from Voldemort. The proof lies in the sword, Only a true Gryffindor could have pulled Godric Gryffindor's blade from the sorting hat. Suddenly, the doors burst open. Lucius Malfoy storms in, with Dobby trailing behind. He shoves the house elf aside and begins accusing Dumbledore. But Dumbledore remains perfectly composed. He reveals that members of the school board signed his suspension under threat, and that someone had secretly planted the diary as part of a plot to bring Voldemort back. And whoever that person is will pay dearly. Furious, Lucius kicks Dobby aside and turns to leave. But Harry moves fast. He grabs the diary and follows, exposing the truth. Lucius himself slipped it into Ginny's cauldron at Diagon Alley. Enraged, Lucius throws the book at Dobby. But Harry had already hidden something inside. A sock. When Dobby opens the diary, the sock falls into his hands. And just like that, he is free. Lucius realizes what has happened. In a rage, he draws his wand and moves to attack Harry. But Dobby steps forward. With a single snap, he blasts Lucius backward, sending him crashing to the ground. Humiliated, Lucius has no choice but to retreat. Dobby turns to Harry, overwhelmed with gratitude. Harry smiles gently. There's only one thing he asks, that Dobby never tries to stop him from returning to Hogwarts again. The end-of-year feast arrives, filled with warmth and laughter. Nearly headless Nick has fully recovered, gliding happily through the halls. Hermione, now completely healed, runs forward and hugs Harry tightly, only then turning to shake Ron's hand. Dumbledore praises the professors for successfully brewing the potion that cured all those who had been petrified. And then comes the announcement that delights every student. Final exams are cancelled. At last, Hagrid returns. His release was delayed only because the Weasley's owl lost its way. Overcome with emotion, he thanks the trio for clearing his name. Harry immediately rushes forward and embraces him. The Great Hall erupts into thunderous applause. Even one of Draco Malfoy's friends nearly joins in, before Draco quickly pulls him back down. And just like that, another year at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry comes to an end. Azkaban, the most feared prison in the wizarding world, is not terrifying because of its walls or iron bars, but because of the Dementors that drain every ounce of hope and happiness from their victims. No one has ever escaped until Sirius Black vanished into the night, breaking every rule. His escape sends shockwaves across the wizarding world, and Hogwarts is placed under strict protection. But behind the horror of Azkaban lies a dark secret waiting to be uncovered, one that is deeply connected to Harry Potter. This was Harry's second summer at the Dursleys' house, a place that, to him, felt no different from hell. At night, he would hide beneath his blanket, secretly casting a faint glow from his wand just to read, clinging to the smallest fragments of magic he could steal. But the moment he heard Uncle Vernon approaching, Harry would snap the light off and lie still, pretending to be asleep, as if he had done nothing wrong. The next morning, Harry tried to get Uncle Vernon to sign his permission slip to visit Hogsmeade. But right at that moment, Aunt Marge, Vernon's sister, arrived. A bitter, sharp-tongued woman. She wasted no time. From the second she stepped inside, she began mocking Harry relentlessly, while treating Dudley like he was some priceless treasure. At dinner, Harry, as always, was forced to serve the entire family. But Marge didn't stop. She kept pushing further, insulting his parents again and again. Harry's patience finally shattered. He shouted, and instantly, the glass in her hand exploded. Vernon rushed to intervene, trying to calm things down, knowing Harry wasn't someone he could easily control. But Marge only became more vicious, even going so far as to compare Harry's mother to a dog. This time, Harry couldn't take it anymore. "Shut up," he growled. And then, something terrifying happened. The air shifted. A sudden wind roared through the room. The lights flickered and went out. Marge's fingers began to swell. Then her entire body started expanding, inflating like a balloon. Her clothes stretched tight, buttons popping off one by one. Within seconds, she had turned into a massive human balloon. She floated upward, slamming into the ceiling before drifting helplessly in midair. Vernon panicked, grabbing onto her, trying to pull her down. But even with all his strength and the dog's help, it wasn't enough. In the end, he had no choice but to let go, and Marge shot out into the night sky, screaming in terror as she drifted away. Harry didn't hesitate. Not for a second. He stormed upstairs, packed his things, and came back down. Vernon tried to stop him, but this time, Harry wasn't afraid. He raised his wand and coldly warned him. If he didn't let him leave, he would be the next balloon. And just like that, after 2 long years of enduring misery, Harry finally walked out of that house. Alone in the dark streets, he had no idea where he was going. Sitting by the roadside, Harry noticed a newspaper headline. A prisoner had escaped from Azkaban, Sirius Black. A dangerous murderer. A loyal servant of Voldemort. The first person in history to ever break out of that terrifying prison. Before Harry could even process it, something even stranger happened. A massive triple-decker bus, the night bus, came hurtling toward him. As two vehicles on a narrow bridge nearly collided, the driver calmly pulled a lever, and the bus shrank, squeezing through an impossibly tight gap like it was made of rubber. Still in shock, Harry found himself taken to the leaky cauldron. A hunchbacked old man greeted him at the door. Inside, wizards gathered as chairs bizarrely jumped onto tables on their own. Harry was led to a room where he reunited with Hedwig, and to his surprise, the Minister for Magic, Cornelius Fudge, was waiting for him. Fudge explained that the situation with Aunt Marge had already been handled. She had been deflated back to normal, and her memory completely erased. Harry was stunned. He had used magic outside of school, and yet he wasn't expelled. But Fudge clarified. With Sirius Black on the loose and potentially targeting Harry, the Ministry had decided to overlook it. Hogwarts, he assured, would take responsibility for Harry's safety. The next morning, Harry prepared to return to school. But the day began with a rather chaotic incident. A monstrous textbook, the Monster Book of Monsters, suddenly attacked him. It snapped open its jaws, revealing rows of sharp teeth, lunging to bite him. Harry wrestled with it, tricking it into biting his shoe before quickly snapping it shut. As he stepped outside, he ran into Ron and Hermione. They excitedly told him about Ron's family trip to Egypt. But soon after, Arthur Weasley pulled Harry aside for a private conversation. He revealed a secret the Ministry was trying to keep hidden. Sirius Black had escaped to find and kill Harry. Arthur urged him to be extremely careful, and made him promise not to go looking for Sirius himself. Later, they boarded the Hogwarts Express. With all compartments full, they had no choice but to sit with a new professor, Remus Lupin, who appeared to be fast asleep. Harry began telling Ron and Hermione everything that had happened. But suddenly, the train shook violently. The lights went out. A freezing cold filled the air. Something was approaching. The windows iced over. The water in bottles froze solid. And then, a ragged figure in tattered robes slowly appeared at the compartment door. Ang Azkaban de Mentor. It slid the door open. The air became suffocatingly heavy. Harry felt as though his very soul was being pulled out of his body. A woman's scream echoed inside his mind. Just as the Dementor was about to strike, Lupin woke up. He raised his wand, shouted a spell, and a powerful burst of light forced the creature back. The Dementor retreated, and Harry collapsed into unconsciousness. When he came to, Ron and Hermione were staring at him in panic. Lupin handed him a piece of chocolate, telling him to eat. It would help him recover. Harry whispered that he had heard a woman screaming. But strangely, neither of his friends had heard anything at all. At last, the train arrived safely at Hogwarts. The students were welcomed back with a peculiar choir performance, using croaking frogs as their instruments. The atmosphere was both bizarre and oddly familiar. Professor Dumbledore stepped forward, announcing that Remus Lupin would be the new defense against the dark arts teacher, while Hagrid had officially taken on the role of care of magical creatures professor. Down below, Draco Malfoy wasted no time returning to his usual antics, mocking Harry for fainting on the train. But before he could stir up more trouble, Dumbledore's voice cut through the hall. He announced that the Azkaban Dementors would be stationed around the school to search for Sirius Black. He warned every student to stay far away from them. These were dangerous creatures, ones that did not distinguish between right and wrong and could attack anyone. After the feast, the Gryffindor students headed back to their common room. But this time, a rather ridiculous situation awaited them. The fat lady, guardian of the entrance, refused to let them in simply because she was busy listening to opera. With no other choice, the students had to wait outside. When they finally got in, the mood quickly shifted. The group shared magical sweets. Neville suddenly screamed at the top of his lungs. Ron started roaring like a lion. And Harry, smoke burst out of his ears, sending the entire room into laughter. But outside, the atmosphere was entirely different. The Dementors drifted silently around the castle grounds, bringing with them a chilling, suffocating cold. The next morning seemed peaceful, filled with birdsong. But peace didn't last long. The moment a small creature brushed against the Whomping Willow, it was violently struck and flung away before it could even react. In divination class, Professor Sybil Trelawney began teaching students how to read tea leaves. Each student examined their partner's cup and searched for meanings in a book. When it was Ron's turn, he predicted that Harry would face a great challenge, but would overcome it in the end. However, when Trelawney personally read Harry's cup, everything changed. She froze. Her hands trembled. The teacup slipped and shattered on the floor. In a hushed, fearful voice, she declared that Harry had seen the Grim, a massive black dog, an omen of death. The entire class fell into silence. Later, during care of magical creatures, Hagrid led the class into the forest. And, of course, Neville, the king of bad luck, immediately ran into trouble, getting attacked by his own textbook and collapsing onto the ground. As they moved deeper in, Draco Malfoy once again began running his mouth, openly mocking Dumbledore. This time, Harry couldn't stay quiet and snapped back at him. Right then, Hagrid stepped in and introduced a magnificent yet dangerous creature, Buckbeak, a hippogriff. He explained that it was a proud and easily angered creature. If you failed to show respect, the consequences could be severe. Hagrid asked who wanted to approach it first. And, as usual, no one stepped forward, except Harry. He walked slowly toward Buckbeak, then bowed. The creature stared at him, letting out a cautious cry. The tension was suffocating. Harry took a step back, but then, Buckbeak bowed in return. That was the sign. Harry carefully reached out his hand. After a few intense seconds, the hippogriff accepted him. The entire class exhaled in relief. Overjoyed, Hagrid helped Harry onto its back, then gave it a firm pat. Buckbeak launched into the air. Harry soared high above the ground, gliding over the lake as the wind roared past him. He stretched out his arms, shouting with exhilaration, a rare moment of freedom he had never truly felt before. When they landed, the class erupted into applause. But Malfoy, driven by jealousy, stepped forward and provoked Buckbeak. And he paid for it instantly. The hippogriff lashed out, striking him with tremendous force and breaking his arm. Hagrid quickly calmed the creature before rushing Malfoy to the hospital wing. Later, during dinner, Professor McGonagall delivered alarming news. Sirius Black had been spotted near a village not far from Hogwarts. The tension in the school rose instantly. In the next lesson, Professor Lupin brought in a wardrobe containing a boggart. He taught the class the spell Ridiculous, a way to turn fear into something laughable. Neville was called up first. When asked what he feared most, he answered, "Professor Snape." The class burst into laughter. Lupin instructed Neville to imagine Snape wearing his grandmother's clothes, and in an instant, the image of Snape dressed in ridiculous attire sent everyone into fits of laughter. One by one, the students stepped forward. A giant spider was turned into a clumsy creature slipping around on roller skates. A snake transformed into a ridiculous clown. Fear turned into laughter. But for Harry, his turn had yet to come. But when it was Harry's turn, everything changed. His mind went straight to the Dementors. Just as the boggart began to shift into that terrifying form, Lupin suddenly stepped in, placing himself in front of Harry. With a swift spell, he turned the creature into a harmless cloud and forced it back into the wardrobe. He didn't want Harry to face that fear. The next day, students were allowed to visit Hogsmeade, but Harry wasn't. Without a guardian's signature, he had no permission to go. Even after asking Professor McGonagall for help, she refused to bend the rules. With no other choice, Harry walked away, quietly disappointed. He went to find Lupin and told him about what he had heard before passing out, the scream of a woman, and how he believed it was his mother. Lupin looked at him gently and said Harry had the exact same eyes as Lily, a truly remarkable woman. He believed Harry would grow to be just as strong as his parents. Meanwhile, Ron and Hermione returned from Hogsmeade, excitedly sharing everything they had seen and done, while Harry simply listened in silence. Curiosity and a growing unease began to settle deep inside him. But that very night, chaos erupted across the castle. The fat lady's portrait, the entrance to Gryffindor Tower, had been violently slashed. The painting itself was gone. Dumbledore immediately ordered every portrait in the castle to be questioned. Eventually, they found the fat lady hiding, trembling, inside another frame. Terrified, she revealed the truth. She had been attacked by Sirius Black. At once, Dumbledore ordered a full lockdown. Every entrance and exit was sealed. Students were gathered in the Great Hall, while teachers searched every inch of the castle. But there was no trace of Sirius. Fear began to spread throughout Hogwarts. The next day, Professor Snape took over Lupin's class. Cold and sharp as ever, he questioned the difference between an animagus and a werewolf. As usual, Hermione eagerly raised her hand, but Snape deliberately ignored her. When she answered anyway, he sneered, calling her an insufferable know-it-all. Down below, Draco Malfoy secretly sent Harry a folded paper crane. Inside was a mocking drawing of the upcoming Quidditch match, predicting Harry would take a bludger straight to the head. And then, the match began. Under a raging storm. Rain poured relentlessly. Winds howled so fiercely that umbrellas in the stands were ripped away. Yet the cheers of the crowd roared louder than ever. The game was intense. At one point, a player was struck by lightning and fell straight from their broom. Harry shot into the sky, chasing the golden snitch. Both seekers climbed higher and higher, nearly disappearing into the black clouds above. His opponent was struck and fell, leaving Harry alone in the sky. Then suddenly he saw it. A dark cloud shaped like a massive black dog. But the snitch was still right in front of him. Without hesitation, Harry pressed on, flying higher and higher, until his broomstick began to freeze beneath him. And then they appeared. The Dementors. They floated around him, surrounding him from all sides. As Harry tried to descend, one blocked his path. It began draining him, pulling away every ounce of happiness, every fragment of hope. Panic took over, and Harry fell. Dumbledore acted instantly, casting a spell that caught him just before he hit the ground. When Harry woke in the hospital wing, Ron and Hermione were beside him. Hermione explained that the Dementors had no right to be on the field, and Dumbledore had been furious, driving them away immediately. But there was a cost. Harry's broomstick had been completely destroyed. The next day, Harry went to see Lupin, asking why the Dementors always targeted him. Lupin explained that they were drawn to those who carried deep pain and terrible memories. And Harry had more of that than most people could ever understand. He didn't tell Harry to be afraid. He told him to become stronger. Winter slowly crept in. While everyone else excitedly prepared for another trip to Hogsmeade, Harry could only watch from afar. But this time, he refused to sit still. Wearing his invisibility cloak, Harry slipped out, following the others in secret. But before he could get far, Fred and George Weasley stopped him. For a moment, it seemed like they would turn him in, but instead, they handed him something extraordinary. The Marauder's Map. A magical map that revealed the location of every single person in the castle, along with all its hidden passages. For Harry, it wasn't just a map. It was a key to everything that was about to unfold. They showed Harry one of the 7 secret passages, hidden behind the statue of a one-eyed witch. Following their instructions, Harry pushed aside loose bricks, crawled through a narrow tunnel, and finally, he reached Hogsmeade. Beneath his invisibility cloak, Harry blended into the crowd, quietly exploring the village he had dreamed of visiting for so long. Meanwhile, Hermione was eager to check out the Shrieking Shack, a place rumored to be haunted. But Ron was far too terrified to even get close. Elsewhere, Malfoy was, as always, looking for trouble. He insulted Hermione, calling her a mudblood. And instantly, a snowball smashed straight into his face. Malfoy froze in shock. Before he could react, more snowballs came flying in rapid succession. Crabbe and Goyle were hit as well, spinning around in confusion, unable to fight back. The whole group panicked and ran. Ron and Hermione exchanged a glance. They both knew exactly who was behind it. Later, the 3 of them wandered through the village together. But as they passed by a pub, Harry spotted Hagrid sitting inside with Minister Fudge, Professor McGonagall, and the innkeeper. Still under his cloak, Harry slipped inside and began to listen. And then he heard the truth. Sirius Black wasn't just a murderer. He had once been the best friend of Harry's parents. But he had betrayed them, leading Voldemort straight to James and Lily. And that wasn't all. He was also believed to have murdered Peter Pettigrew, another close friend. Rage ignited inside Harry. He stormed out of the pub, accidentally crashing into a band along the way. Ron and Hermione rushed after him. When they found him, Harry was sitting alone on a rock, silent tears falling down his face. He told them everything. And in that moment, Harry made a vow he would kill Sirius Black. Winter passed. Harry returned to Lupin, asking him to teach him how to defend against the Dementors. Lupin agreed. He began training Harry in the Patronus Charm, Expecto Patronum, an advanced spell that conjures a shield powered by one's happiest memories. Harry closed his eyes, searching for the brightest moments of his life. And then Lupin opened the wardrobe. The Boggart emerged, taking the form of a Dementor. The real battle had begun. Harry tried to cast a spell, but fear overwhelmed him. His focus shattered, and once again he collapsed, Lupin quickly brought him back, handing him another piece of chocolate to help him recover. Gently, Lupin asked what memory Harry had used. Harry replied that he had thought of the first time he rode a broomstick. Lupin shook his head. That wasn't strong enough. Harry understood and decided to dig deeper, to find a memory that truly mattered. They tried again. Lupin opened the wardrobe, releasing the boggart in the form of a Dementor. This time, Harry didn't panic. He closed his eyes, focused with everything he had, and shouted, "Expecto Patronum." A small spark of light burst from his wand, growing brighter, stronger, spreading outward until it forced the Dementor back into the wardrobe. Harry had done it. Lupin smiled, clearly impressed. When he asked what Harry had thought of this time, Harry answered softly. His parents. He imagined them speaking to him. It was the most beautiful memory he had. But the moment of triumph didn't last long. The next day, Ron panicked. His pet rat, Scabbers, had gone missing. Without hesitation, he blamed Crookshanks, Hermione's cat. Tension between the three friends quickly escalated. They went to see Hagrid about the trial. Hagrid himself was fine, but the bad news hit hard. Buckbeak had been sentenced to death, thanks to a complaint filed by Lucius Malfoy. That night, Harry secretly opened the Marauder's map. He watched as teachers moved throughout the castle. But then, one name appeared. Peter Pettigrew. A name that should have been dead long ago. Harry didn't hesitate. He grabbed the map and rushed off to find him. But when he reached the spot, there was no one there. Only a few sleepy portraits, muttering irritably in their frames. Then, suddenly, the footsteps on the map moved straight toward Harry. He spun around, but saw nothing except his own reflection in a mirror. And right at that moment, Snape appeared. Harry quickly snapped the map shut, pretending he had been sleepwalking. But Snape wasn't convinced. His eyes narrowed as he demanded to see the piece of parchment in Harry's pocket. The tension tightened. And then, Lupin stepped in. He calmly took the map from Harry, saying he would examine it himself. Without another word, he led Harry away to his office. But this time, Lupin wasn't gentle. He looked at Harry with a rare, stern expression. He told him that his parents had sacrificed their lives for him, and yet Harry was carelessly throwing his own away. If the map had fallen into Sirius Black's hands, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Lupin confiscated the map and told Harry to leave. Before stepping out, Harry hesitated, then said he had seen a name on the map. Peter Pettigrew. Lupin froze. That's impossible. The next day, in divination class, Professor Trelawney instructed the students to gaze into crystal balls. As Harry and Ron struggled to stay awake, she suddenly drifted toward Hermione. Hermione bluntly admitted she saw nothing at all. Trelawney dismissed her immediately, claiming she lacked the inner eye. Furious, Hermione snapped, knocking over her crystal ball before storming out of the classroom. Later, as Harry returned, he noticed the crystal ball left behind on the staircase. He picked it up and carried it back inside, but the moment his hand touched it, a vision struck him. Sirius Black, calling his name. Then suddenly, Trelawney grabbed Harry's arm. Her body stiffened. Her voice dropped into something deep, distant, unnatural. Tonight, he will come. The servant and the master will be reunited. And just as suddenly, she snapped back to normal, with no memory of what she had just said. But Harry couldn't forget. The next day, the trio went to visit Hagrid. Outside his hut, they saw the executioner sharpening his axe, preparing for Buckbeak's sentence. A heavy silence filled the air. Malfoy and his gang showed up as well. This time, Hermione had had enough. She stormed forward, raising her wand to Draco's throat, his face turning pale instantly. For a moment, it seemed like she might actually do something. But then, she lowered her wand. Malfoy smirked, and Hermione punched him straight in the face. The three of them bolted. Inside Hagrid's hut, they made a surprising discovery. Scabbers, alive. Ron was about to apologize to Hermione, but suddenly they heard voices outside. Dumbledore, Fudge, the executioner. They were coming. Hagrid quickly ushered the three of them out through the back door. As they hid behind a patch of pumpkins, Hermione thought she saw something, a shadow, but she brushed it off as her imagination. From a distance, they watched as Buckbeak was led away. And then, the axe fell. Hermione burst into tears. At that exact moment, Scabbers bit Ron's hand and bolted. Ron immediately chased after him, running toward the Whomping Willow. Harry barely had time to react. When Ron screamed, a massive black dog lunged from the shadows. It seized Ron and dragged him straight beneath the tree. Harry and Hermione sprinted after him, but the whomping willow came alive, thrashing violently. Its branches lashed out like iron whips, blocking their path. Harry was struck and thrown back, his glasses flying off. Hermione dodged desperately, then grabbed onto one of the branches, swinging her body to slow it down. In the struggle, she was dragged forward, her face scraped and bruised. Harry shoved his glasses back on and rushed her. Hermione grabbed him, just as a hidden opening beneath the tree revealed itself. And, in the next instant, they were pulled inside. They ran up a narrow staircase and found Ron lying in the corner of a dark room, his leg badly injured. Ron trembled, his voice barely steady. "That dog, it's Sirius Black." At that exact moment, the door creaked open. Sirius stepped inside. Hermione instantly moved in front of Harry, shielding him. But Harry couldn't hold back anymore. Rage exploded inside him. He lunged forward, grabbing Sirius by the throat, slamming him to the ground, raising his wand. And then, "Harry, no." Lupin burst in, disarming him in a split second. And then, something no one expected happened. Lupin and Sirius looked at each other, not like enemies, but like old friends. They embraced. Hermione stood frozen in shock. Then suddenly, she shouted, revealing the truth she had pieced together long ago. "Professor, you're a werewolf." The truth was finally coming to light. Lupin didn't deny it. Instead, he calmly praised Hermione for her intelligence. But behind him, Sirius was growing increasingly frantic, insisting over and over that someone had to be killed. Lupin handed his wand to Sirius and decided to tell everything. The one who betrayed Harry's parents wasn't Sirius. It was Peter Pettigrew. He hadn't died, and he was here. Just as Sirius stepped forward, Snape suddenly stormed in, disarming him. No matter how Sirius tried to explain, Snape refused to listen. He pressed his wand to Sirius's throat, determined to hand him over to the Dementors. Harry stepped in to stop him. But in the chaos, he accidentally knocked Snape unconscious. He needed the truth. Slowly, Sirius raised his hand, pointing at Ron. Ron froze in terror. And then, the truth was revealed. Peter Pettigrew was Scabbers, Ron's rat. Years ago, Peter had cut off his own finger to fake his death, framing Sirius. Then he transformed into a rat and hid for 12 years in the Weasley family. Sirius grabbed Scabbers and slammed him onto the table. The rat struggled desperately, trying to escape, but Lupin and Sirius worked together, forcing the transformation. And finally, Peter Pettigrew stood before them. He collapsed to his knees, begging for mercy, his cowardice laid bare. But then, the full moon rose. Lupin began to change. Without his potion, he transformed into a werewolf. Chaos erupted. Peter seized the moment, transforming back into a rat and escaping into the darkness. Sirius immediately turned into a black dog to chase him, but was badly injured in the struggle. Harry ran after Sirius, reaching the edge of the lake. But the real danger was only just beginning. The sky darkened. Dementors, dozens of them. They descended, surrounding Harry and Sirius. One swooped down to attack. Harry raised his wand, shouting the Patronus charm. Light flickered, but it wasn't enough. The Dementors closed in. Closer, closer. Harry and Sirius collapsed under the crushing despair. And then, a blinding light exploded across the lake. A silver stag, radiant, powerful, unstoppable. It charged forward, its energy sweeping away every Dementor in its path. Harry's vision blurred, fading. But just before he lost consciousness, he saw a figure, standing in the distance. When Harry woke in the hospital wing, Hermione told him the truth. Sirius had been captured, and he would soon face the Dementor's kiss, a fate worse than death. Harry told Dumbledore everything, but no one believed them. Except him. Dumbledore quietly turned to Hermione and gave her a chance. The Time Turner. If they succeeded, they could save more than one innocent life. Hermione placed the chain around her neck, grabbed Harry's hand, and turned it. Time began to rewind. They returned to the moment before Buckbeak's execution. Carefully, they moved through the shadows, watching their past selves arguing with Malfoy. Every step had to be precise. One mistake could change everything. The stones thrown at Hagrid's window earlier had been them. A warning. Harry and Hermione quickly freed Buckbeak. Meanwhile, Dumbledore skillfully distracted Fudge. By the time they returned, Buckbeak was gone. The executioner's axe came down, only to strike a pumpkin. Hidden in the darkness, they waited. Harry whispered that he believed the one who saved him by the lake had been his father. But then, no one came, and he realized the truth. If he kept waiting, nothing would change. Harry stepped forward. He raised his wand, focusing on the strongest, happiest memory he could find, and shouted, "Expecto Patronum." A massive silver stag burst forth, blazing with light, driving the Dementors away completely. And in that moment, Harry understood. The one who had saved him was himself. Later, Harry and Hermione rode Buckbeak through the night sky, flying toward the tower where Sirius was held. Hermione unlocked the door. Sirius was free. He looked at Harry softly, quietly, and said that as long as Harry believed in him, that was enough. Love never truly disappears. Then, mounting Buckbeak, he vanished into the night. Harry and Hermione returned to the hospital wing just as time snapped back into place. Everything as if it had never happened. The next morning, Harry went to see Lupin. He had resigned. His identity as a werewolf had been exposed. Harry blamed himself for letting Pettigrew escape. But Lupin smiled. At least they had saved an innocent man. Before leaving, he returned the Marauder's map to Harry. Later, in the Great Hall, Harry received an anonymous gift. A firebolt. Without hesitation, he and his friends rushed outside to test it. The broom shot into the sky at incredible speed, so fast it filled Harry with both exhilaration and fear. He shouted into the wind, "Free!" And so, Part 3 comes to an end. Not just as a journey of uncovering the truth, but as the moment Harry finally found a real family. Sirius Black, his godfather, the one who had always loved him. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to leave a like and share your thoughts in the comments. And be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next epic movie recaps. See you next time. A man noticed a strange light coming from the building across the street. Thinking it was just some children causing trouble, he went over to check. But instead, he accidentally overheard a secret conversation between Peter Pettigrew, Lord Voldemort, and another mysterious figure. Suddenly, a snake slithered into the room and revealed his presence. Without hesitation, Voldemort struck and killed the old man without mercy. Harry jolted awake from the disturbing nightmare at the sound of Hermione Granger calling his name. Soon after, he joined the Weasley family and Cedric Diggory with his father as they headed into a vast forest. They arrived at an open field where an old boot was waiting for them. It was a portkey. Everyone grabbed hold of the boot. In an instant, it spun violently and launched them high into the sky. When they landed, Harry, Ron, and Hermione collapsed onto the ground, still dizzy from the journey. Before them stood the site of the Quidditch World Cup, packed with thousands of excited witches and wizards. Arthur Weasley led everyone into a tiny tent from the outside, yet unbelievably spacious and luxurious within. That night, they eagerly entered the enormous stadium. The moment they stepped inside, they ran into the Malfoy family. Lucius Malfoy wore his usual arrogant expression and wasted no time mocking those around him. The match began. Ireland soared into the sky, unleashing dazzling fireworks shaped like dancing leprechauns. Moments later, Bulgaria answered with equal energy. Then the world's greatest seeker, Victor Krum, shot across the stadium so fast that the entire crowd erupted in thunderous cheers. At the end of the spectacular match, the Minister of Magic fired a brilliant white beam into the sky, bringing the unforgettable event to a close. Back at the tent, the Weasley children were still overflowing with excitement, singing and dancing wildly. But the celebration ended instantly when Arthur burst in and ordered everyone to run at once. Outside, the Death Eaters had arrived and chaos spread everywhere. In the stampede, Harry was separated from the others. He fell to the ground and was trampled unconscious by the panicked crowd. When he woke up, the area around him was completely deserted. In the distance, a man named Barty Crouch Jr. appeared. He raised his wand and cast a spell. Instantly, a giant skull with a serpent tongue blazed across the sky, the dark mark. Terrified, Harry hid behind a tent. Just then, Ron and Hermione found him, and the stranger quickly vanished. At that same moment, Harry's scar burned with sharp pain. Soon, wizards from the Ministry of Magic rushed to the scene. Mistaking the three of them for the culprits, they prepared to attack. Fortunately, Arthur recognized them in time and stopped the others. Harry explained that he had seen a man, though he could not make out his face. The Ministry wizards immediately gave chase, but found nothing. After the disaster, the trio returned to Hogwarts to begin a new school year. On the train, while buying snacks, Harry caught sight of a beautiful girl named Cho Chang and was instantly captivated. Back in their compartment, Hermione noticed Harry's scar hurting again. She advised him to write to Sirius Black and tell him about the strange dream and the mysterious man from the night before. This year, Hogwarts would host the legendary Triwizard Tournament, and 2 other wizarding schools were coming to compete. From the sky, elegant carriages, pulled by magnificent white horses, descended with pride. Then, from beneath the lake, a colossal ship rose from the depths of the water. Inside the Great Hall, the girls of Beauxbaton's Academy of Magic entered gracefully through fragrant winds and swirling ribbons, leaving the boys of Hogwarts speechless. Their headmistress, Madame Maxime, was nearly as tall as Hagrid himself. Next came the powerful entrance of the boys from Durmstrang Institute, led by Headmaster Igor Karkaroff and their famous champion, Victor Krum. Then a large chest was brought into the center of the hall. Professor Albus Dumbledore announced that the Triwizard Tournament was extremely dangerous, but whoever won would be remembered forever. At that moment, the Great Hall doors burst open. A man with a magical eye stepped inside. Thunder roared across the enchanted ceiling, but with only a few swift movements, he calmed the storm. It was Alastor Moody, better known as Mad-Eye Moody, a legendary dark wizard catcher. His magical eye constantly scanned every corner of the room, while he occasionally drank from a mysterious flask he carried with him. For safety reasons, students under 17 would not be allowed to enter the tournament. The announcement caused an uproar throughout the hall. Dumbledore then placed an ancient wooden chest before them and revealed the blazing goblet of fire, its blue flames burning fiercely. Anyone who wished to compete only needed to write their name on a slip of paper and place it inside. But later that very night, a mysterious intruder secretly broke into the room where the goblet of fire was kept. The next morning, Moody officially began teaching defense against the dark arts. He asked the class about the 3 unforgivable curses. Hermione answered immediately that there were 3, and anyone who used them would be sent straight to Azkaban. Moody then turned to Ron Weasley and asked about the first curse. Remembering what his father had once told him, Ron answered, "The Imperious Curse." Immediately, Alastor Moody released a spider, enlarged it before the entire class, and let it leap toward the students. Ron, who had always been terrified of spiders, turned pale and screamed in panic. Draco Malfoy laughed at him until seconds later, the spider sprang straight onto his face. Without warning, Moody ordered the spider to drown itself in a cup of water. Instantly, it obeyed and threw itself inside. Moody explained that this was the Imperious Curse, a dark spell capable of forcing others to obey every command. Next, Moody turned to Neville Longbottom and asked about the second curse. Trembling, Neville answered that it was the Cruciatus Curse. Moody cast the spell at once, making the spider writhe in unbearable agony across the desk. Seeing Neville go pale with fear, Hermione Granger shouted for him to stop. Moody set the spider back on the table and then asked Hermione about the final curse. But she refused to answer. Without another word, Moody killed the spider before the entire class and declared that it was the killing curse. He then reminded everyone that only one person had ever survived it: Harry Potter. The next day, rain poured relentlessly from the sky. The entire school gathered in the Great Hall to witness the selection of the champions for the Triwizard Tournament. Older students stepped forward one by one to place their names into the Goblet of Fire. Cedric Diggory confidently entered as well. Meanwhile, the twins Fred Weasley and George Weasley rushed in excitedly, boasting that they had created an aging potion to fool the age restriction. Hermione quickly warned them that Albus Dumbledore had placed an age line around the goblet, making cheating impossible. But the twins ignored her. They drank the potion and eagerly stepped into the circle. For a moment, it looked like they had succeeded until the goblet suddenly erupted and blasted them backward. The potion backfired, covering them in long white beards and aged hair like old men. Moments later, they were blaming each other and wrestling across the floor. Soon after, Victor Krum entered the hall, calm and cold. He dropped his name into the goblet, then glanced at Hermione, leaving her visibly flustered. The room fell silent. Dumbledore raised his hand. The blue flames of the goblet turned blazing red and shot out the first slip of parchment. As expected, The first champion chosen was Victor Crumb. The second parchment flew out, naming Fleur Delacour of Beauxbatons Academy of Magic. The final slip belonged to Cedric Diggory, the pride of Hogwarts. A gleaming golden cup was brought forward, the prize awaiting the victor. But at that very moment, everything changed. The goblet of fire burst violently once more, and a fourth slip of parchment shot into the air before the stunned crowd. Dumbledore opened the paper and read the name written inside, Harry Potter. The great hall fell into complete silence. Harry himself stood frozen in shock, only moving when Hermione gently nudged him forward. Unlike the cheers given to the other champions, every eye now stared at him with suspicion and doubt. Inside the teacher's chamber, a fierce argument broke out. Dumbledore asked Harry whether he had entered his own name into the goblet. Harry firmly denied it, but Severus Snape made no effort to hide his distrust. Moody spoke in Harry's defense, insisting that a student like him could never have fooled the goblet alone. In the end, they had no choice but to allow Harry to compete, because the rules were absolute. Whoever the goblet chose was bound to participate. Minerva McGonagall protested furiously, but even Dumbledore could not change the decision. All he could do was ask Moody to keep a close eye on Harry. As for Harry, he felt more burdened than ever, especially when Ron no longer believed in his innocence. The following day, famous reporter Rita Skeeter arrived at the school to interview the champions. While there, she also made sure to flirt shamelessly with the male students. Rita pulled Harry into a private room and began taking notes with her enchanted quick quotes quill. No matter how many times Harry denied the tragic stories she invented, Rita wrote only what she wanted. Not long after, Harry received a letter from Sirius Black. Fearing that the Ministry of Magic might be watching, Sirius used a black owl instead of Hedwig to deliver it. On the arranged day, Harry entered the common room and found a newspaper article about himself waiting on a chair. It was filled with sensational lies and ridiculous exaggerations. Furious, Harry threw it straight into the fireplace. Suddenly, Sirius's face appeared in the flames. His first question was whether Harry had put his own name into the goblet. Harry firmly said no. Sirius warned him that Hogwarts was no longer safe. He suspected the mastermind behind everything could be Igor Karkaroff, a former Death Eater, or Barty Crouch Sr., the man who had once sent his own son to Azkaban. He reminded Harry that the Triwizard Tournament had claimed many lives in the past, and urged him to stay close to his friends at all times. Just then, Ron heard whispering downstairs and came down the staircase. Sirius vanished instantly. The next day, still unwilling to speak directly to Harry, Ron asked Hermione to pass along a message. Rubeus Hagrid wanted to see him. That night, Hagrid was dressed far more elegantly than usual, and even carried a bouquet of flowers. It turned out he had a date with Madame Maxime. Wearing his invisibility cloak, Harry secretly followed them, and discovered a group of men guarding several enormous cages that blasted waves of scorching fire. Inside them were savage dragons, and Hagrid quietly added that the most terrifying creature of them all was the Hungarian Horntail. The next day, Harry arrived at school and immediately became the center of ridicule. Everywhere he looked, students were wearing mocking badges, accusing him of cheating his way into the Triwizard Tournament. Harry went to find Cedric Diggory to warn him that the first task would involve dragons. But on his way back, he ran into Ron Weasley. The two argued fiercely once again, and their friendship officially fell apart. As if that were not enough, Draco Malfoy showed up with his friends to mock Harry. Between laughs, he insulted Harry's family as well. But at that exact moment, Alastor Moody appeared. Without hesitation, he transformed Malfoy into a white ferret, hurled him through the air around the courtyard, then dropped him straight into a metal suit of armor. Professor Minerva McGonagall rushed over, changed Draco back into a human, and sternly reminded Moody that teachers were not allowed to use transfiguration on students. Afterward, Moody called Harry aside. He removed his wooden leg and asked whether Harry had any plan for the task. Harry noticed the large trunk nearby shaking violently, but Moody quickly pulled his attention back to the conversation. He explained that Fleur Delacour possessed the charm of Revila blood, while Victor Crumb had the support of all Durmstrang Institute behind him. That meant Harry would need a strategy of his own. Moody asked what Harry's greatest skill was. Harry answered that he was good at flying, but contestants were not allowed to bring broomsticks into the arena. Moody then gave him a subtle hint. If he could not bring it with him, he should summon it. The next day, the first task officially began. Fred Weasley and George Weasley seized the chance to run a betting stand, while Harry waited nervously behind the arena, listening to the deafening roars of dragons. Hermione Granger rushed over, deeply worried for her best friend. She gave him endless advice, then suddenly lost control of her emotions and threw her arms around him. At that moment, Rita Skeeter appeared and quickly snapped a photo. But before she could celebrate, Victor Crumb stepped forward and ordered her to leave the champions area immediately. A few minutes later, Albus Dumbledore and the teachers entered. Ludo Bagman brought out a bag for the champions to draw from. Inside were miniature dragon models representing each contestant as opponent. Fleur drew the common Welsh green. Cedric and Crumb received dragons of their own. And Harry got the deadliest, one of all the infamous Hungarian horntail. The goal of the task was simple: retrieve the golden egg guarded by the dragon. Inside it was the clue to the second challenge. A cannon blast signaled the start. Harry would compete last. As he stepped into the arena, he heard the crowd cheering from the stands, and for the first time, a spark of confidence returned. The golden egg lay right in front of him, but the moment he took a few steps forward, the dragon roared and slammed its tail into the ground. Harry rolled aside just in time to avoid the burst of fire racing toward him. The horntail attacked again and again, sending Harry flying across the arena. He struggled back to his feet and hid behind a boulder while flames scorched everything around him. From the stands, Hermione screamed for Harry to use his wand. In that instant, he understood. Harry raised his wand and cast the summoning charm, calling for his firebolt. Just as the dragon prepared to devour him, the broom shot into the arena, and Harry leapt onto it. But the real challenge had only just begun. The horntail roared furiously and chased him through the air. It nearly bit his head off as he swerved past the castle towers. Harry dropped lower, but while glancing behind him, the dragon cut him off. One savage tail strike hurled him onto a rooftop, and his broom became trapped in a window. The dragon charged. Harry's broom handle snapped in half, and he fell, barely managing to cling to the ledge. With only seconds to spare, he climbed back onto the broom and shot away before he could be burned alive. The horntail pursued him relentlessly. It bit into the tail of his broom, causing Harry to crash into a bridge and tumble downward. Unable to stop itself, the dragon also plunged from the arena. The entire stadium held its breath when Harry disappeared from sight. Then suddenly from the distance, he soared back into view on his broom to an explosion of cheers. Harry dived down, snatched the golden egg, and completed the task. Back at Gryffindor House Tower, Harry was celebrated like a hero. Holding the golden egg, he was lifted high into the air by Fred and George. Everyone urged Harry to open it. He gently turned the egg, and at once a horrifying scream burst out, so piercing it made everyone's ears ache. Just then, Ron stepped forward. At last, he believed Harry had never cheated, because no sane person would risk death just to become famous. Ron admitted that he had asked Hermione to warn Harry about the dragons. After a few awkward words and lingering frustration, the two best friends finally made peace. The next day, the way the entire school looked at Harry had completely changed. But Harry only had eyes for the beautiful Cho Chang. Across the room, Hermione was furious over Rita Skeeter's latest article. Using only a few photos, the reporter had invented a ridiculous love triangle between Hermione, Harry, and Victor Crumb. At the same time, Ron received a package from home. When he opened it, he found an ancient dress robe so ugly it was almost unbearable to look at. He quickly offered it to his younger sister, but she immediately refused. Not long after, the whole school was informed about the upcoming Yule Ball. Everyone had to find a dance partner. Professor McGonagall dragged Ron forward to demonstrate proper dancing, causing the entire class to burst into laughter. Excitement spread everywhere as students prepared for the event. Even Neville practiced day and night. Christmas was drawing near, yet Ron and Harry still had no partners. The girls from Beauxbatons Academy of Magic barely looked at them. Meanwhile, Hagrid already had Madame Maxime, and Victor Crumb was surrounded by admiring girls wherever he went. During Severus Snape's potions class, Ron could think of nothing except finding a date. Fred tossed him a note, telling him to just ask someone already. Ron muttered that it sounded easier than it was. So Fred casually threw the note toward another girl, and she immediately agreed to go with him. Out of options, Ron suddenly remembered that Hermione was a girl too. Nervously, he asked her, saying that she probably did not have anyone else to invite her anyway. Hermione, furious, replied that she already had a partner. The next day, Harry gathered all his courage and asked Cho Chang to the ball. But unfortunately, she had already said yes to someone else. Disappointed, he returned to his room and found Ron Weasley there. Ron had foolishly rushed off to invite Fleur Delacour, then ran away before even hearing her answer. At that moment, the Patil twins, Parvati Patil and Padma Patil, walked by. Thinking quickly, Harry invited them to attend the ball with him and Ron. Professor Minerva McGonagall then announced that Harry would be required to open the dance alongside the other 3 champions. That evening, Harry saw Cho arrive with Cedric Diggory. But what shocked both him and Ron even more was the sight of Hermione Granger entering in a stunning pink gown, looking more beautiful than ever. Her date was none other than Victor Crumb. The 4 champion couples stepped onto the floor to roaring applause. Ron could not take his eyes off Hermione, filled with regret. After the opening dance, teachers and students flooded onto the floor as well. Alastor Moody sat in the corner, tapping his foot to the music, while occasionally drinking from the mysterious flask he always carried. Not long after, the music shifted into energetic rock and roll. The great hall exploded with laughter, dancing, and celebration. Only Harry and Ron remained seated in the corner, looking utterly miserable. When Victor stepped away to get drinks, Hermione came over to sit with her 2 friends. But a few careless words from Ron immediately hurt her feelings. The 2 began arguing loudly once again. Ron dragged Harry back to their room, while Hermione was left sitting alone in tears. That night, Harry dreamed once more of the Dark Mark. He saw that strange room again and watched the skull and serpent tattoo moving on the arm of Barty Crouch Jr. Harry jolted awake in terror. The next morning, Hermione urged Harry to find a way to open the golden egg, because the second task was only 2 days away. Cedric had already given Harry a clue. Take the egg to the prefect's bathroom. Harry followed the advice and brought it there. But when he opened it, the terrible screeching sound was so unbearable that he slammed it shut at once. Just then, Moaning Myrtle suddenly appeared. She told Harry to place the egg underwater. He did, and this time a haunting song echoed from inside it. After discussing it with Hermione, the 2 of them concluded that the clue must be connected to the Mere People in the Black Lake. At that moment, Moody appeared and called Ron and Hermione away, leaving Neville Longbottom behind to help Harry gather his books. Because of that, Neville remembered a magical plant called gillyweed, something that could allow a person to breathe underwater for an hour. The next day, Fred and George once again eagerly opened their betting stand. The second task would take place in the Black Lake. Each champion had something precious taken from them, and it was now hidden at the bottom of the lake. Their mission was to dive down and retrieve it before time ran out. Harry swallowed the gillyweed. At first, his body felt horribly uncomfortable, but seconds later, he was stunned to discover gills growing on his neck and webs forming between his fingers and toes. With the crowd cheering above, Harry plunged into the water. He swam deep into the lake, pushing through thick forests of seaweed. He spotted Fleur approaching as well, but suddenly something grabbed her leg and dragged her downward, knocking her out of the competition. Harry dodged further attacks before glimpsing the tail of a merperson. He followed it until he reached an ancient underwater ruin. There, Ron, Hermione, and the loved ones of the other champions were tied beneath the water. Harry quickly cut Ron free. At that moment, Cedric arrived, used magic to drive away the Mere People, and rescued Cho Chang. Harry was about to take Hermione as well, but the Mere People immediately blocked his path. Suddenly, the Mere People panicked and fled. Charging toward Harry from behind was a giant shark. But it was no monster at all, it was Victor Crumb, who had transformed himself. He quickly brought Hermione back to the surface. Harry was still worried about Fleur's younger sister, Gabrielle Delacour, so he decided to take both Ron and Gabrielle with him. But on the way back, he was attacked by a swarm of giant squid. With no other choice, Harry pushed Ron and Gabrielle upward first, while he himself was trapped by their tentacles. He immediately used his wand, frightening the creatures away. Above the lake, the final bell had already rung. At the same moment, the gillyweed wore off. Harry began to suffocate and used the last of his strength to burst through the surface. The moment he reached shore, Fleur ran to him and kissed both his cheeks in gratitude for saving her sister. The results were announced. Cedric finished first. Harry arrived late, but because of his bravery and kindness in saving 2 people, he was awarded second place. As Harry stepped onto land, Barty Crouch Sr. suddenly appeared and asked to speak with him privately. But before he could say much, Moody interrupted and took him away. The following day, Harry, Ron, Hermione, and Rubeus Hagrid were walking through the forest, when Hagrid made a horrifying discovery: the dead body of Barty Crouch Sr. lying on the ground. The news sent shockwaves through all of Hogwarts. Moody noticed Harry standing outside the office door and called him inside. Before leaving to deal with the situation, Albus Dumbledore told Harry to wait there and help himself to some lemon drops if he liked. Curious, Harry unwrapped a handful of candy, but the sweets suddenly bit his hand, making him stumble backward in shock and accidentally trigger a hidden mechanism. A secret door opened. Inside stood the pensive. Harry was instantly pulled inside. When he opened his eyes, he found himself sitting beside Dumbledore during the trial of several Death Eaters. The prisoner on trial was Igor Karkaroff. He claimed that spies inside the Ministry of Magic had once passed information to Voldemort. Igor named several people, saying that Severus Snape had once served the Dark Lord, but Dumbledore immediately defended Snape. Then Igor revealed the last loyal servant of Voldemort, the one who had used the Cruciatus Curse on Aurors Frank and Alice Longbottom. Barty Crouch Jr. He tried to flee, but Moody captured him at once. Barty Crouch Sr. was devastated, yet he still gave the order to send his own son to Azkaban. Harry awoke just as Dumbledore returned. He explained that he had been dreaming repeatedly about someone named Barty Crouch Jr. and told him everything he had just seen. On his way back, Harry overheard Snape and Karkaroff arguing. He also caught sight of the skull and serpent tattoo on Karkaroff's arm. Snape dragged Harry into his office and accused him of stealing rare ingredients for a polyjuice potion. Harry denied it, but Snape refused to believe him. Then, at last, the final task arrived amid great excitement. For the last challenge, Moody placed the Triwizard Cup in the center of a gigantic maze. Whoever touched it first would win the tournament. If anyone was in danger, they only needed to fire red sparks into the sky for rescue. Dumbledore warned all the champions that many terrifying dangers waited inside the maze, and they would need to be extremely careful. Harry stepped into the maze. Before the living hedge gates closed behind him, Moody secretly pointed him toward the right path. Elsewhere in the maze, Cedric Diggory sprinted for his life, barely escaping the crushing hedge walls. Fleur Delacour fled in terror after seeing something horrifying in the darkness. Harry chased ahead and soon encountered Victor Krum emerging from the shadows. But something was wrong. Krum moved, as if he were under someone else's control. Further on, Harry discovered Fleur trapped tightly in deadly vines. Without hesitation, he fired red sparks into the sky to call for help. A violent wind rose around them, and the maze twisted, shifting its paths once again. At last, Harry saw the Triwizard Cup waiting at the end of the path. He rushed toward it only to come face to face with Cedric. Harry warned him that Victor had been cursed. Cedric insisted Harry deserved the victory more, but Harry proposed that they touch the cup together. But the moment their hands touched it, they realized the cup was not just a prize. It was a portkey. In an instant, both of them were ripped out of the maze and transported to a ruined graveyard. Harry immediately recognized the place. It was the same graveyard from his nightmares. Confused, he stepped forward and saw the grave of Voldemort's father. A terrible feeling washed over him, and he urgently told Cedric to run. But at that exact moment, the scar on Harry's forehead erupted in pain. From the darkness emerged Peter Pettigrew, carrying Lord Voldemort in a weak, childlike form. Without hesitation, Pettigrew murdered Cedric and bound Harry to a statue in the center of the graveyard. Wormtail lowered Voldemort into a boiling cauldron. He took a bone from the grave of Voldemort's father, cut off his own hand as a sacrifice, and then drew Harry's blood into the potion. As the ingredients combined, flames exploded from the cauldron, and from within that sea of fire, Voldemort was reborn. The Dark Lord rose with pale white skin, a bald head, and a terrifying flat nose. He stepped forward and touched the mark on Wormtail's arm. At once, the skull and serpent symbol blazed across the sky. Within moments, the other Death Eaters began operating around him one by one. Furious, Voldemort accused them of abandoning him and never trying to restore him to power. Then he ripped away their masks. Among them stood Lucius Malfoy. After that, Voldemort rewarded Wormtail with a new silver hand. He then turned to Harry and revealed the truth about the night he failed to kill him. Voldemort explained that Harry's mother, Lily Potter, had used her love and her life to create an ancient and powerful magic that protected her son. He pressed a hand against Harry's scar, causing unbearable pain. Then Voldemort untied him and forced him into a duel. He tortured Harry with the Cruciatus Curse and repeatedly mocked his parents. In a burst of rage, Harry fought back with magic, but Voldemort effortlessly overpowered him. Terrified, Harry hid behind the gravestones. But then he gathered every ounce of courage and stepped back out to face him. Two streams of light collided as their wands met. Harry was driven backward by the force, but slowly, impossibly, he began to push Voldemort back. Suddenly, spirits emerged from the point where the wands connected. Among them were Harry's parents. They told him they could hold Voldemort off for a few moments, just enough time for Harry to escape and use the portkey to return. Cedric's spirit also appeared, begging Harry to bring his body back to his father. Harry instantly grabbed the Triwizard Cup along with Cedric's body. A second later, the portkey carried them back to Hogwarts. At first, everyone thought Harry had won and burst into cheers. But the celebration died instantly when they saw Cedric was dead. Albus Dumbledore rushed to Harry's side. In panic and grief, Harry screamed, "Yes, back." The entire arena fell silent. The only sound left was the heartbreaking cry of Cedric's father. In the confusion, Alastor Moody dragged Harry to his private office. He relentlessly questioned him about Voldemort, desperate to know who had enchanted the cup and turned it into a portkey. But then Moody suddenly froze when he realized the flask he always drank from was empty. Harry also noticed something strange. He had never mentioned the graveyard or the tomb, yet Moody knew far too much. There was no point hiding anymore. Moody revealed his true allegiance to Voldemort. He confessed that he had orchestrated everything from the very beginning, helping Harry survive each task only to deliver him to the graveyard where the Dark Lord could rise again. Now, he intended to kill Harry and claim glory for himself. Just then, Dumbledore, Severus Snape, and Minerva McGonagall burst into the room and subdued him in time. Snape forced Veritasium down his throat. Under the potion's effects, he confessed the entire truth. When they opened the trunk in the room, the real Moody was found imprisoned inside all along. The Polyjuice potion then wore off. The imposter writhed in pain as he transformed back into his true identity, Barty Crouch Jr. Dumbledore immediately ordered that he be taken to Azkaban. Although the Ministry of Magic wanted to hide Cedric's death and Voldemort's return, the next day Dumbledore stood before the entire school and declared the truth. Cedric Diggory had been murdered by Voldemort. He urged the three schools to stand united like never before, because a dark era had begun. Later, Dumbledore met privately with Harry and apologized for forcing him to face so much danger over the years. Harry said that he had seen his parents the night before, but Dumbledore explained that it was only a form of ancient magic. The dead could not truly return to life. He also reminded Harry that he was not alone. He still had friends beside him and people ready to fight alongside him. At last, the final day of the school year arrived with bittersweet farewells. Students from the visiting schools prepared to return home. Victor Crumb handed Hermione his address and hoped she would write to him. Fleur and her younger sister also came to say goodbye to Ron. The Durmstrang ship sailed away, while the Beauxbatons carriage rose into the sky. Another school year had come to an end, but this time everything had changed forever. Voldemort had truly returned. And from this moment on, the war between light and darkness had only just begun. In the summer of his 5th year, Harry was still living with his aunt and uncle. One day at the park, Dudley and his gang mocked him, repeatedly making jokes about his late mother. Furious, Harry pulled out his wand. Suddenly, dark clouds rolled in and a violent storm broke out. The two boys quickly hid beneath a bridge. Then the lights went out, the air turned freezing cold, and the Dementors of Azkaban suddenly appeared, attacking Harry. Dudley panicked and tried to run, but he slipped, collapsed, and became easy prey for the Dementors. In the middle of life and death, Harry cast a spell to drive them back, saving Dudley as well. Moments later, their neighbor Mrs. Fig arrived. On the way home, she revealed that Dumbledore had sent her to keep watch over Harry. While Harry was enduring his aunt and uncle's fury for leaving their son half senseless, an owl flew in carrying a letter. The Ministry of Magic had discovered that Harry used magic in front of a Muggle, and they had decided to expel him from Hogwarts. Harry was devastated. As if that were not enough, every night he was haunted by nightmares of Cedric's death. One night, he woke suddenly to find the door unlocking by itself. A group of people entered, including Professor Mad-Eye Moody. They introduced themselves as the Order of the Phoenix, and said Dumbledore had sent them to bring Harry away. Mad-Eye summoned the brooms, and they all left under the cover of night. When they arrived at a large row of houses, Moody tapped the wall 3 times with his staff. The walls slid apart, and another house suddenly appeared in the middle. Inside, Harry found Sirius and the entire Weasley family waiting for him. He went upstairs and saw a house elf muttering insults about him. Then Hermione rushed forward and hugged him tightly. She told Harry that the Ministry was being completely unfair, so Dumbledore had demanded a trial for him. She also explained that this place was the headquarters of the Order of the Phoenix, where they planned how to defeat Voldemort. Just then, the Weasley twins appeared. They were using their extendable ears to eavesdrop on the adults' conversation. But before they could hear much, a creature suddenly snatched one of the ears away. Harry then asked why the Ministry was against him. They handed him a newspaper. It turned out Minister Fudge was openly opposing both Dumbledore and Harry, refusing to believe that the Dark Lord had returned. Sirius explained that Voldemort was rebuilding his army. Harry wanted to fight alongside them, but Mrs. Weasley stopped him, saying he was still too young to join the order. The next day, Arthur Weasley escorted Harry to his trial. The two of them entered a telephone booth. Arthur dropped in a coin, and it carried them deep underground. Below was a vast magical world filled with witches and wizards. When they stepped into the elevator, Harry grew nervous, knowing he would have to face the courtroom alone. But then Dumbledore appeared. The Ministry had deliberately failed to inform him that the trial time had been changed, but luckily he had arrived 3 hours early on his own. Harry explained that he had used magic only to defend himself against the Dementors, yet no one believed him. Dumbledore then called Mrs. Fig as a witness. She recounted everything she had seen, but the minister still claimed the evidence was unconvincing. In the end, Dumbledore demanded a vote, and the majority believed Harry's story. Harry was cleared of all charges. On the way back, Sirius secretly came to see Harry. He handed him an old photograph of the original Order of the Phoenix, with Harry's parents standing among them. When they arrived at the train station, Harry suddenly caught a glimpse of Voldemort. From that moment on, he felt uneasy the entire journey. As soon as he arrived, Draco began taunting him again, but Ron stepped in before things got worse. Soon after, Harry noticed a strange horse-like creature pulling the carriages, yet none of his friends could see it. The only other person on the carriage was the unusual Luna Lovegood. During the opening feast, Dumbledore announced that Professor Umbridge would be taking over defense against the dark arts. Back in the common room, Harry found many students turning against him. They had read the newspapers and believed Harry was lying about the Dark Lord's return. Ron stood by his side, declaring that he believed him. That night, Harry once again suffered nightmares about Voldemort. The next day was their first offense against the dark arts lesson. Umbridge declared that students would no longer be taught practical magic, because this was a time of peace, and there was nothing to fear. Harry strongly objected, insisting that Voldemort had returned. But Umbridge coldly accused him of lying and gave him detention. She summoned Harry to her office and forced him to write the words, "I must not tell lies." But this was no ordinary punishment. With a cursed quill, every word he wrote was carved into the back of his own hand. That night, Hermione noticed Harry's injured hand. She wanted to tell Dumbledore, but Harry angrily refused, saying he did not want to bother him. The next day, Harry went into the forest and saw Luna gently stroking the same creature he had seen before. She explained that it was a thestral, a being visible only to those who had witnessed death. Luna said that she and her father believed Harry, and that the Ministry had bribed the newspaper to turn everyone against him. She warned that Voldemort wanted Harry isolated, making him easier to destroy. Her words made Harry realize he had been pushing his friends away, so he returned and made peace with Ron and Hermione. In the Great Hall, Harry saw Professor McGonagall arguing fiercely with Umbridge over her cruel punishments toward students. Umbridge immediately hid behind the authority of the minister. Soon after, headlines spread everywhere announcing that the Ministry would be reforming Hogwarts. Umbridge's power continued to grow. She interfered in every part of school life, created countless new rules, made life miserable for the teachers, and even dismissed Professor Trelawney for incompetence. At that moment, Dumbledore arrived. He calmly stated that while Umbridge had the power to hire teachers, she did not have the authority to throw them out of the castle. He allowed Trelawney to remain at Hogwarts. Harry tried to follow him, but Dumbledore avoided him once again. Back in the common room, Harry, Ron, and Hermione heard that the Ministry was now hunting Sirius, blaming him for several recent disappearances. Then Sirius suddenly appeared through the fireplace flames. He explained that Minister Fudge believed Dumbledore was trying to seize control of the Ministry, which was why he did not want students learning how to fight. He also revealed that the disappearances were Voldemort's doing. Before leaving, Sirius told Harry that from now on, he would have to rely on himself. Hermione suggested that Harry should form a secret group where students could learn to defend themselves. The next day, they gathered everyone at a hidden meeting place. Hermione explained the plan, but it was not very convincing, since most of them still refused to believe that the Dark Lord had returned. Harry grew frustrated and wanted to end the meeting immediately, but Luna mentioned the Patronus charm. Soon, others began talking about all the dangerous things Harry had survived over the past few years. In the end, they finally convinced everyone to sign up. The group was named Dumbledore's Army. While discussing where they could train in secret, Neville accidentally discovered the Room of Requirement. It was a magical room that changed its form and only appeared when someone truly needed it. They instantly chose it as their training ground. On the first day, Harry taught everyone the disarming charm. In the lessons that followed, the group continued practicing harder than ever. Meanwhile, Filch had started watching them closely. After seeing them enter a mysterious room, he waited outside the door, hoping to catch them red-handed. But while he was half asleep and stuffing himself with food, the students slipped out through another exit. Soon the school introduced even more rules. Yet Harry's group kept training every single day. The Weasley twins then gifted Filch a box of trick chocolates, and the next morning his face was covered in horrible blisters. Furious, Umbridge created the Inquisitorial Squad, and of course Draco's gang immediately joined. That day, the group temporarily stopped meeting for the Christmas holiday. After everyone had left, only Harry and Cho remained behind. Cho was still struggling with Cedric's death. The two comforted each other, and in that quiet moment, they shared a kiss. That night, Harry dreamed once again of Voldemort's snake. This time, he saw Arthur Weasley being attacked and dying in agony right before his eyes. Harry was immediately taken to Dumbledore. The headmaster ordered the portraits around his office to search for Arthur and send help at once. Harry finally exploded in anger, shouting because Dumbledore still refused to tell him what was really happening. At that moment, Professor Snape arrived. He brought Harry to his office and explained that Harry shared some kind of connection with Voldemort. The Dark Lord was invading his mind, the same method he used to control others. Because of that, Harry needed to learn a powerful form of magic to block him out. During Christmas break, Harry returned to the headquarters of the Order of the Phoenix. Thanks to his warning, Arthur had been rescued in time, but Harry still felt deeply guilty. When he went downstairs, the same house elf from before mocked him again. Sirius quickly drove the creature away. He then explained that this was his family home, and he had given it to Dumbledore as the headquarters of the Order. On the wall hung the ancient black family tree. Like the rest of his family, they had always been proud and obsessed with pure-blood superiority, looking down on anyone with non-magical ancestry. That was why Sirius had run away from home at 16 and joined Harry's father instead. It was then that Harry finally confessed the truth. In his dream, he had not only seen the snake attack Arthur, he had felt as though he was the snake itself. Harry feared that with each passing day, he was becoming more and more like Voldemort. Sirius comforted Harry, telling him that every person carries both light and darkness inside. What truly matters is which side we choose to act upon. When the holiday ended, everyone returned to Hogwarts. After hearing that Hagrid had finally come back, Harry, Ron, and Hermione rushed to his hut. But when they arrived, they found Umbridge interrogating him about where he had been. Once she left, Hagrid invited them inside and explained that Dumbledore had sent him to seek help from the giants. Unfortunately, things had not gone well, because the Death Eaters were also trying to recruit them. Meanwhile, deep inside Azkaban, the dark mark on a woman's arm suddenly burned with pain. Moments later, a massive hole was blasted through the prison walls. Several prisoners escaped, including Bellatrix Lestrange, Sirius's own cousin. By the next morning, the news was everywhere, yet Minister Fudge still blamed Sirius for everything. When Harry arrived at the training room, he found Neville already there. Neville revealed that Bellatrix had tortured his parents into madness. Hearing this, Harry decided that today's lesson would be the Patronus charm. Ginny's Patronus took the form of a horse, Hermione's was an otter, and Luna's became a hare. Suddenly, the entire room shook and the windows shattered. Umbridge had arrived with the Inquisitorial Squad. Everyone was captured and dragged before the minister, but Dumbledore stepped forward and took all the blame upon himself, claiming that Dumbledore's army had been created under his orders, not Harry's. Fudge immediately ordered him sent to Azkaban. But before anyone could stop him, Dumbledore summoned Fawkes. A burst of blazing fire exploded through the room, knocking everyone back as the Phoenix carried him away. The next day, Umbridge became headmistress. Dozens of new rules were posted across the castle. Students were punished for the smallest things, and even the portraits were placed under strict control. Harry's group was forced to endure detentions where words were carved into their skin. When Ron began losing hope, Hagrid came to find them. He led the three friends into the Forbidden Forest, where they saw the centaurs in open rebellion after the Ministry had restricted their lands. Then Hagrid introduced them to a half-giant named Grop, his younger brother. Grop was clumsy, childlike, and impossible to control. The moment he saw Hermione, he happily scooped her into the air, terrifying her. Ron rushed forward to help, only to be thrown aside. Then Hermione bravely called Grop by name and ordered him to put her down. To everyone's surprise, he obeyed and seemed eager to befriend her. Hagrid then asked Harry and his friends to look after Grop for him, because he feared he would soon be forced to leave Hogwarts. After that, Harry continued his occlumency lessons with Snape, but he still made no progress. Snape grew harsher and more frustrated with every lesson. During another attempt, Harry failed again. But when Snape began insulting Harry's father, Harry lost control and cast a spell back into Snape's mind. What he saw shocked him. Young Snape was being humiliated and bullied, and James Potter, Harry's own father, was one of the tormentors. When Snape came to his senses, he furiously threw Harry out of the room. The next day, while the class was taking an exam, strange noises suddenly echoed through the hall. A tiny flame burst into the room and exploded into fireworks. Then Fred and George Weasley came soaring in on their brooms, unleashing chaos across the castle. Fireworks blasted everywhere. Draco's gang ran for cover, and a giant dragon-shaped firework chased Umbridge through the halls while destroying every one of her precious rules. The students no longer cared about their exams. They abandoned the test halls and rushed outside in open rebellion, while the older professors could barely hide their satisfaction. But in that very moment, Harry suddenly grew weak and collapsed. Once again, he saw a vision of Voldemort threatening Sirius, forcing him to hand over the prophecy sphere. Harry immediately told Ron and Hermione what he had seen. Hermione feared it was a trap set by the Dark Lord, but Harry insisted Sirius was the only family he had left. The three of them hurried to the fireplace. Harry was about to use Floo powder to leave when Umbridge caught them, and they were dragged back to her office. She demanded that Snape give her Veritasrum, but he refused. Furious, Umbridge decided to use the Cruciatus Curse on Harry, even though it was forbidden magic. Thinking quickly, Hermione lied about a secret weapon left behind by Dumbledore and lured Umbridge into the Forbidden Forest. When they arrived where Grop had been hiding, only a rope remained. Umbridge realized she had been tricked and prepared to attack the two students. Suddenly, a group of centaurs appeared. One of them fired an arrow at her, but Grop moved in the way. Enraged, Umbridge began choking him without mercy. Hermione begged her to stop, but she remained completely cold-hearted. Then Grop seized Umbridge by the neck and lifted her into the air. Taking their chance, the centaurs charged forward and carried her deep into the forest. After returning, Harry decided to go alone, not wanting to endanger his friends. But they reminded him that they were Dumbledore's army, and they would stand beside him. Together, they mounted the Thestrals and flew to the Department of Mysteries in London. Inside, they entered a vast chamber filled with rows of glass spheres. Ron noticed one with Harry's name on it. When Harry picked it up, a voice echoed through the room. Harry Potter was the one with the power to stop Voldemort, and only one of them could survive. At the far end of the hall, a masked figure stepped forward. It was Lucius Malfoy. Harry finally realized the truth: the vision had been a trap. They had lured him there to retrieve the prophecy. Then Bellatrix and the other Death Eaters emerged from the shadows. Harry and his friends instantly fired stunning spells and tried to escape, but Lucius blocked their path. Luna faced another Death Eater and was knocked to the ground. She quickly fought back with a spell that blasted him away. Nearby, Neville managed to take one enemy down with a leg locker curse. Harry, Ron, and Hermione ran through the hall, taking turns firing stunning spells, but nothing seemed to stop their pursuers. Hermione knocked several prophecy spheres off the shelves to slow Lucius down. As the Death Eaters closed in, Ginny panicked and cast Reducto, causing every sphere around them to shatter and crash to the floor. The group had no choice but to flee into another chamber. They tumbled into a strange room where an ancient archway stood in the center. Harry could hear whispers coming from beyond it, but none of the others heard a thing. Then a wave of thick black smoke rushed toward them. The Death Eaters had arrived and Harry's friends were taken hostage. Lucius stepped forward and ordered Harry to hand over the prophecy sphere. The moment Harry gave it to him, a bright flash exploded behind them. Sirius had arrived, and he drove his fist straight into Lucius's face. Lucius crashed to the ground, and the prophecy shattered into pieces. An instant later, beams of white light filled the room. The Order of the Phoenix had come, freeing the students. Sirius told Harry to take his friends and run, but Lucius and the Death Eaters were already charging back in. Both sides collided in a fierce battle. One attacker tried to strike from behind, but Moody countered him in an instant. Nearby, Harry and the others managed to defeat another Death Eater. Harry disarmed Lucius, and Sirius blasted him away. But in the chaos, Bellatrix struck without warning and killed Sirius. Harry let out a scream of pure agony as Lupin held him back. Then, driven mad by grief, he broke free and chased after Bellatrix. He cast the Cruciatus curse at her, consumed by rage. Inside his mind, a voice urged him to kill her. Then Voldemort himself appeared behind him. Before Harry could even raise his wand, it was torn from his hand. But at that very moment, Dumbledore arrived. The two greatest wizards alive launched into a violent duel, while Bellatrix used the chaos to escape. Harry threw himself aside as deadly spells flew in every direction. Voldemort conjured a giant serpent of fire, but Dumbledore drove it back and trapped him inside a sphere of water. Voldemort crashed down, then unleashed a burst of power so fierce that the glass windows around them shattered. He gathered the razor-sharp shards and hurled them straight at Harry. Dumbledore moved to stop the attack, never realizing Voldemort's true goal was not to kill Harry, but to possess him. Suddenly, Harry was forced to relive the deaths of the people he loved. He even saw himself becoming a monster, just like Voldemort. Dumbledore rushed to him and said that what mattered was not how much Harry resembled Voldemort, but how different he chose to be. Ron, Hermione, and the others ran in, horrified to see Harry writhing in pain on the floor. Then, memories of love, friendship, and every person who cared for him flooded Harry's mind. He realized he possessed something Voldemort never could: friendship and love. With that strength, Harry forced Voldemort out of his body. Just as Voldemort prepared to kill the boy, members of the Ministry of Magic stormed in. This time, they saw him with their own eyes. There was no denying the truth anymore. Fudge turned pale, knowing that no amount of bribery or lies could cover up his failure now. Later, Harry sadly packed his belongings, blaming himself for everything that had happened. He asked Dumbledore why he had never told him about the prophecy. Dumbledore gently explained that Harry had already suffered more pain than anyone his age should ever have to bear. As Harry walked through the corridor, he met Luna searching for her lost belongings. And so, Harry's 5th year came to an end. As Hogwarts entered the summer holidays, the story ends here. To defeat darkness, we must always believe in ourselves, because friendship and love can create miracles. Today, I'm reviewing the movie Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. After the return of the Dark Lord and the heartbreaking death of Sirius, Harry falls into deep despair. Meanwhile, the Death Eaters are causing chaos everywhere, hunting down wizards without warning. They even strike the Muggle world, destroying a bridge and throwing everyone into panic. Sitting in a small cafe, Harry is reading about these terrifying events when a beautiful girl approaches and starts talking to him. The two quickly make plans for a date that very night. But whenever Potter takes an interest in someone, things never seem to go smoothly. The moment he looks outside, he sees Deputy Headmaster Albus Dumbledore waiting for him, telling Harry to come along. Harry gives the girl one last regretful glance before taking the professor's hand. Instantly, they apparate to the village of Budleigh Babberton. Dumbledore draws his wand, and the two step into a house as dark as night. Inside the ruined room, drops of blood are falling from above. Dumbledore tastes a small trace of it and immediately realizes that something is strange about a nearby chair. He taps it with his wand, and a man suddenly appears. It is Professor Horace Slughorn, an old friend of Dumbledore. The Death Eaters have been trying to recruit him to their side, so Slughorn has been hiding here. A moment later, the headmaster uses magic to restore the entire room to its original state, an incredible display of power. Professor Slughorn is a brilliant teacher, and many of his former students have gone on to become famous and influential figures. Harry's parents were among his favorite students. Slughorn especially admired Harry's mother, a gifted witch born to Muggle parents. Dumbledore had invited him back to the school many times before, but Slughorn always refused. That is why this time he decided to bring Potter along. Just as expected, the professor finally softens and agrees to return. Afterward, Dumbledore operates Harry back once more. The boy lands straight into a puddle outside the home of the Weasley family. When Ginny Weasley comes downstairs, she finds Harry's luggage already sitting there. While the family is still arguing over where he could be, Harry walks inside, and everyone rushes forward to hug him. Soon after, the three best friends gather upstairs and chat together. Hermione Granger mentions that people have been saying Dumbledore is now too old to protect anyone, but Harry firmly believes in him, joking that the man is only around 150 years old, hardly old at all. Elsewhere, the two sisters, Bellatrix Lestrange and Narcissa Malfoy, arrive under the Dark Lord's orders to meet Professor Severus Snape. It is revealed that Snape has secretly been acting as a double agent for Voldemort all this time. Draco's mother begs Snape to protect her son during the dangerous mission ahead. Bellatrix does not trust him at all, and demands that he prove himself by making the unbreakable vow. Next, the two of them join hands as Bellatrix begins reciting the spell. Through the oath, Snape promises to use every ounce of his power to protect Draco. And if the boy fails, Snape himself must carry out the mission. Anyone who betrays this vow will die. Meanwhile, Ron and the others head to Diagon Alley for the grand opening of the twins' new shop. The Weasley brothers have created all kinds of magical products, and they are selling fast. One item costs 5 coins, but for their own younger brother, the price suddenly becomes 10. At the same time, half of Diagon Alley has already shut down because of the Death Eater's growing terror. When the group enters the shop, they accidentally spot Draco Malfoy acting suspiciously nearby, so they decide to follow him. They watch as Draco slips into Borgin and Burke's. Harry and the others climb onto the roof to spy on him, barely avoiding being caught. The next day, students begin returning to school aboard the train. Harry is convinced Draco has joined the Death Eaters, but his two best friends refuse to believe it, thinking he is simply being paranoid. Frustrated, Harry storms off. Spotting Draco in the next compartment, Potter puts on his invisibility cloak and sneaks inside. While Draco is talking, he suddenly notices Harry's backpack moving. Once everyone else gets off the train, Draco seals the doors, casts a body-bind curse, and locks the compartment tight. Pulling away the cloak, he discovers Harry underneath. Draco kicks him in the face to avenge his father, then throws the cloak back over him, leaving Harry to miss the first day of school. Luckily, the eccentric Luna Lovegood spots him with the help of her strange glasses and breaks the curse. This year, security at the school is tighter than ever, with Aurors constantly patrolling the grounds. Arriving late, Harry and Luna see Draco being searched, but Professor Severus Snape steps in and vouches for him. Afterward, Luna kindly fixes Harry's broken nose. Inside the Great Hall, Hermione Granger smacks Ron Weasley for doing nothing but eating while Harry was missing, only for Harry to suddenly appear with a bruised face. Soon after, Albus Dumbledore announces that Professor Horace Slughorn will take over as the new potions teacher, while Snape will finally assume the post of defense against the dark arts professor. He warns everyone that dark forces are trying to infiltrate the school and turn students into tools, so all must remain vigilant. The following day, Professor Minerva McGonagall calls Potter in and tells him he should attend potions class now that the teacher is no longer the strict Snape. So Harry drags Ron along with him. By the time they arrive, class has already started. Only 2 books remain in the cupboard, one brand new, one old and worn out. The 2 boys rush to grab them, and Ron wins the new copy. This, Slughorn explains, is Amortentia. It is a love potion that causes obsession and overwhelming desire for whoever the drinker desires most. And this small vial, he continues, is Felix Felicis, also known as liquid luck. It is extremely difficult to brew, but even a single sip can make everything the user attempts succeed, until the potion's effects run out. Professor Horace Slughorn offers it as a prize to whoever can successfully brew the draught of living death during today's lesson. Everyone immediately begins competing, but the process is incredibly difficult. Meanwhile, Harry's old textbook already contains detailed handwritten notes. While the rest of the class struggles and fails, he follows the unusual instructions in the margins and succeeds. Harry creates a perfect cauldron of the draught of living death. Slughorn drops a few flower petals into it, and they instantly wither away. That proves the potion is flawless. Harry wins the challenge and receives the bottle of Felix Felicis. In his office, Albus Dumbledore places a notebook and a ring inside a cabinet. After that, he summons Harry and shows him several bottles containing memories. Harry pours one into the pensieve and lowers his face into the swirling water. It takes him back to the day Dumbledore first met Tom Riddle at an orphanage. At that time, Tom is only a boy, yet there is already something deeply dangerous about him. Tom can move objects without touching them, speak with animals, and harm people he dislikes. Dumbledore tells the boy that he is the same, then proves it by conjuring a flame. He then takes several stolen items from Tom's cupboard and explains that he should not steal from others. Dumbledore invites Tom to study at Hogwarts, hoping he can use his gifts for the right purpose. But at that moment, Dumbledore has no idea the child before him will become the most dangerous wizard of all time. Outside the school, the Death Eaters are still searching for a way to break in. Late at night, Draco Malfoy secretly enters the room of requirement to carry out his plan. He brings an apple and places it inside the vanishing cabinet. The next day is Quidditch tryouts. Cormac McLaggen has taken an interest in Hermione Granger, so he constantly mocks Ron Weasley. He boasts about his catching skills and acts impressively confident, while Ron fumbles awkwardly and nearly falls off his broom several times. Watching this, Hermione cannot stand it any longer. She secretly casts a Confundus charm on McLaggen, causing him to miss the ball and lose his chance. At the same time, she is quietly helping Ron win. Back in the common room, Hermione scolds Potter about that mysterious book and demands to know who it belonged to, but Harry hides it away. In the end, Ron manages to grab it and discovers a line written inside. This book is the property of the Half-Blood Prince. The following day, Hermione searches the library for answers, but she cannot find a single piece of information about that name. The three friends head to the Three Broomsticks and spot Draco Malfoy coming out of the bathroom. Nearby, Ron Weasley is busy on a date. Professor Horace Slughorn is there as well, announcing that he plans to host a special party for outstanding students. He personally invites Harry and Hermione Granger to attend. After enjoying plenty of butterbeer, the trio heads back. Suddenly, a girl ahead screams in terror. Her friend Katie Bell is being dragged across the ground before rising into the air. Moments later, she crashes down and begins convulsing violently. Rubeus Hagrid rushes over just in time and carries her away. He tells everyone to wrap up the necklace and bring it to Professor Minerva McGonagall. The student explains that after entering the bathroom, Katie came out with the package and said it had to be delivered to Albus Dumbledore. Madame Poppy Pomfrey calls for Professor Severus Snape. He immediately recognizes that Katie has been struck by a powerful curse. Potter insists Draco is behind it, but Snape instantly dismisses the accusation. At Slughorn's party, Harry notices Ron arguing with his girlfriend, while Hermione looks deeply uncomfortable sitting across from Cormac McLaggen. When everyone begins leaving, Harry finds an excuse to stay behind. During their conversation, Slughorn mentions that he keeps a shelf filled with photos of his famous former students. Harry asks if Lord Voldemort is among them, then carefully presses him about Tom Riddle. But Slughorn only says Tom was an exceptionally talented boy, before quickly changing the subject. The next day, before the Quidditch match begins, Ron is mocked by everyone as a loser. His nerves are so bad that he even considers quitting. Seeing this, Harry pretends to pour Felix Felicis into Ron's drink. Believing he has taken liquid luck, Ron is instantly filled with confidence. Out on the pitch, the Slytherin Quidditch team players pass the ball flawlessly. But every time they reach the goalposts, Ron blocks the shots with ease. Soon, his name is roaring through the stands. Gryffindor Quidditch team wins the match, and the whole house erupts in celebration. But the truth is, Harry never gave Ron any potion at all. It was Ron's own belief that led him to victory. Just then, the beautiful Lavender Brown runs forward and kisses Ron in front of everyone. Hermione, heartbroken, rushes outside in tears. Potter quickly follows to comfort her. To make matters worse, Ron keeps showing off his romance in front of her, pushing Hermione over the edge. In fury, she sends a flock of birds to attack him. The next morning, the two of them are officially not speaking to each other. Harry goes to find Hermione, assuming they will attend the next party together. But she has already invited someone else, leaving Harry no choice but to ask Luna Lovegood instead. Meanwhile, Draco secretly returns to the room of requirement. He places an apple inside the vanishing cabinet and shuts the door. After casting a spell, he opens it again. The apple has disappeared. When he opens it one more time, the apple returns, with a bite taken out of it. At the party, Harry notices Hermione Granger trying to avoid someone. When he follows her, he learns that she only invited Cormac McLaggen to make Ron jealous, but now the boy is clinging to her like a parasite. Just then, Professor Severus Snape informs Harry that Albus Dumbledore has gone away on important business and will not return until the new term begins. Suddenly, Draco Malfoy is dragged inside by Argus Filch for lurking outside the party despite not being invited. Snape steps in to free Draco, then takes him outside. The two begin arguing, and in the heat of the moment, they nearly reveal their entire secret plan. Draco declares that he is the chosen one for the mission, and swears he will complete it no matter what. Hidden nearby, Harry overhears every word. The next day, Harry tells Ron everything, but Ron is far too lost in his romance with Lavender Brown to care. The two of them seek out Professor Remus Lupin and insist that Draco and Snape are working for Voldemort. But Lupin does not believe them. He thinks Harry's hatred is clouding his judgment. Besides, Dumbledore has always trusted Snape completely. While Potter sits there feeling defeated, Ginny Weasley arrives and offers him a mince pie. But before the moment can go anywhere, his best friend barges in and ruins it. Later, Harry visits Arthur Weasley in the shed. Arthur explains that he has stationed people to watch Borgin and Burks, and has learned Draco is doing something involving the Vanishing Cabinet. It is an object capable of transporting Death Eaters anywhere, but the matching cabinet is still at the shop. That night, Lupin senses something is wrong. Inside the house, Ginny comes to speak with Harry. The two are just about to kiss when flames suddenly erupt outside. Bellatrix Lestrange appears, trying to lure Harry out. Still burning with rage over Sirius's death, Harry instantly chases after her despite the adults desperately trying to stop him. But no one else can follow the raging fire blocks every exit. Seeing this, Ginny runs after him. She reaches a field of tall reeds where, from the darkness, a Death Eater suddenly steps forward. Potter charges in time and fires a spell, but the attacker easily deflects it. The figure then begins appearing and disappearing around them. Harry and Ginny cast spell after spell, yet none of them land. Just when things seem hopeless, Lupin and Arthur arrive, forcing the Death Eaters to vanish at once. Arthur suddenly remembers his wife and rushes back home. When he arrives, their house is engulfed in flames, burning fiercely to the ground. The next day, Hermione is furious over Harry's reckless behavior, and having to watch Ron continue acting sweet with Lavender only makes her mood even worse. After that, Albus Dumbledore shows Harry another memory. Inside it, Harry notices something strange and wants answers, but he cannot clearly hear the name being mentioned. All he sees is Professor Horace Slughorn suddenly growing angry and ordering Tom Riddle to leave. Dumbledore explains that the memory has been altered by Slughorn, and he wants Potter to get close to him in order to uncover the truth. The next day, after class, Harry goes to see Slughorn. He asks the exact same question Tom asked years ago, but the professor immediately avoids it. He only tells Harry that he should always choose the light. So Harry asks if that was the same answer he gave Tom back then. Furious, Slughorn storms off to his room. Potter follows and apologizes, but the professor refuses to see him. When Harry returns, he finds Ron Weasley sitting there in a trance, staring blankly ahead and mumbling strange words. Harry quickly realizes his best friend has been hit by a love potion, so he rushes Ron to Slughorn. The professor brews an antidote, and after drinking it, Ron finally regains his senses. Slughorn then pours each of them a glass of wine, but the moment Ron takes a sip, he begins convulsing and collapses to the floor. Panicked, Potter grabs a bezoar and forces it into Ron's mouth. Moments later, Ron wakes up and is taken straight to the hospital wing. Just then, Dumbledore returns. He realizes that bottle of wine was originally meant as a gift for him from Slughorn, yet somehow it had been poisoned. Soon after, Ron's girlfriend rushes in, deeply worried. She and Hermione Granger immediately start arguing, and the fight only ends when Ron, still half-conscious, repeatedly murmurs Hermione's name. Harry steps outside and spots Draco Malfoy, so he follows him at once. He watches Draco enter the room of requirement and pull back a sheet, revealing the Vanishing Cabinet hidden inside. Draco places a bird into it and shuts the door. This cabinet is connected to the matching one in Borgin and Burks. When Draco opens it again, the bird inside is dead. The following day in the Great Hall, Harry sees that Katie Bell has recovered, so he asks if she remembers who cursed her. But Katie cannot recall anything. At that moment, Potter notices Draco hurrying away and immediately chases after him. Draco runs straight into the bathroom. Harry confronts him directly, asking if he was the one who cursed Katie only to be attacked at once. Harry dives behind a stone pillar to avoid a barrage of spells. When the two face each other again, Harry casts Sectum Sempra, severely wounding Draco and sending him collapsing into the water-covered floor. Right then, Professor Severus Snape rushes in, reverses the curse, and heals Draco's injuries. When Harry returns, everyone tells him he must get rid of the book immediately. So Ginny goes with him to the room of requirement. She tells Potter to hide it inside the vanishing cabinet. The moment he opens the door, a bird suddenly bursts out and flies away. Then Ginny tells Harry to close his eyes, gently kisses him, and walks away. When he returns, Potter decides to drink the Felix Felicis and go find Professor Horace Slughorn. His instincts suddenly tell him to visit Rubeus Hagrid instead, so he immediately changes direction. Seeing that curfew is near, Slughorn chooses to come along. When they arrive, they discover that Hagrid's beloved friend has died. Slughorn even takes the opportunity to collect 2 bottles of its venom for his own research. After the burial, the 3 of them return to Hagrid's hut. The 2 older men sit together, happily chatting about magical creatures. Slughorn then recalls how Harry's mother once gave him a fish as a gift. On the day Lily Potter died, that fish vanished as well. He admits that he knows Harry has suffered greatly, yet he feels powerless to help him. At that moment, Potter tells him that he is alive only because of his mother's sacrifice, that her love was stronger than all of Voldemort's evil. And now, Harry says, he needs Slughorn's help to defeat him. He begs the professor to be as brave as Lily once was. At last, Slughorn is moved. He takes out the real memory and hands it to Harry. Harry returns and watches it with Albus Dumbledore. The truth is finally revealed. Tom wanted to create Horcruxes. Slughorn explains that they are an extremely dark form of magic that allows a person to hide part of their soul inside another object. Even if the creator is attacked or killed, they can still return to life through the Horcrux, almost like immortality. But to create one, the soul must be torn apart through murder, an act against nature itself. Even worse, Tom intended to make 7 Horcruxes. Hearing this, Dumbledore is left stunned. At that moment, he already possesses 2 of them, the ring and the diary. For some time now, Dumbledore has been leaving the school to search for the remaining Horcruxes, and he has finally found a clue leading to another one. But this time, he needs Harry to come with him. The next day, Harry accidentally overhears Professor Severus Snape arguing with the headmaster. Dumbledore is forcing him to promise something important. Later, Dumbledore tells Potter that when they leave on tonight's mission, Harry must obey every command without question. Harry agrees immediately. Dumbledore tells him to take his hand. In an instant, the 2 of them apparate to a cave hidden in the middle of the sea. To enter this place, one must first weaken themselves. As the price for opening the entrance, Dumbledore cuts his own hand with a knife. The wall immediately parts, revealing a hidden passage and beyond it, a deep black lake. Dumbledore causes the water to boil violently, and from beneath the surface a chain suddenly rises. When Harry pulls it upward, a small stone boat appears in the middle of the lake. The 2 climb aboard and drift toward the center. On the tiny island ahead stands a stone basin filled with glowing green liquid. To claim the object hidden beneath it, every drop of that potion must be consumed. Dumbledore explains that the liquid will torture the drinker with unbearable pain, so he alone must drink it. Harry, no matter what happens, must never stop. The moment Dumbledore swallows the first mouthful, he collapses in agony, but still orders Harry to continue. Trembling, Harry scoops up another cup and forces him to drink again. This time, the headmaster's face turns pale with suffering. After only a few more gulps, Dumbledore begins begging Harry to stop. Harry is devastated, but he remembers his promise and keeps going. At the final cup, Dumbledore desperately pleads for Harry to kill him instead. After struggling to steady himself, Harry still makes him finish the very last drop. At last, they retrieve the Horcrux. It is a locket. Dumbledore's throat is burning with thirst, so Harry tries to conjure water. But the instant it appears, it vanishes. With no other choice, he rushes to the lake to fetch some by hand. At that moment, every light in the cave goes out. Skeletal hands burst from the water and seize Harry. Potter quickly casts a light spell and, in horror, sees countless corpses crawling onto the shore. He fights back in desperation, but they drag him into the water. Their grip tightens as they try to drown him. Suddenly, The lake erupts in blazing red light. The creatures are burned away in waves of fire. Harry pulls himself back onto land and sees Albus Dumbledore using the last of his strength to unleash an ocean of flames, destroying the Inferi and clearing a path for their escape. Meanwhile, back at Hogwarts, Draco Malfoy returns to the Vanishing Cabinet. The moment he opens its doors, the Death Eaters pour through. Harry helps Dumbledore back to the school. The headmaster orders him to find Professor Severus Snape, then forces Harry to hide. No matter what he sees, he must not step out. Moments later, Draco appears. He disarms Dumbledore and admits that all the previous assassination attempts were his doing. Dumbledore tries to convince him that he is not a killer, but Draco insists he is the chosen one for the task and reveals the dark mark branded on his arm. Draco reveals that he was the one who repaired the Vanishing Cabinet inside the Room of Requirement, reopening the passage connected to Borgin and Burke's. Just then, Bellatrix Lestrange and the other Death Eaters burst in, relentlessly pressuring Draco to kill Dumbledore. But despite trying to appear strong, he cannot bring himself to do it. Draco breaks down in tears, his hands shaking uncontrollably. Below them, Harry is desperate to rush out and save the headmaster, but Dumbledore's spell keeps him frozen in place. At that moment, Professor Severus Snape arrives. He signals for Harry to stay silent, then walks forward to face Dumbledore. Dumbledore gives Snape one final look. In the next instant, Snape casts the fatal curse, sending him falling from a tower. Bellatrix joyfully fires the dark mark into the sky to signal Lord Voldemort. As they retreat, the Death Eaters smash everything in their path throughout the castle, and even set Rubeus Hagrid's home ablaze. Filled with rage, Potter immediately chases after them, screaming Snape's name. Bellatrix tries to kill him, but Snape stops her. In his grief and fury, Harry attacks Snape with Sectum Sempra, but to his shock, Snape effortlessly blocks the curse. It is then that Harry learns the truth. The writer of the old textbook, The Half-Blood Prince, is none other than Snape himself. Soon after, the Death Eaters disappear into the night. Harry returns, picks up the Horcrux from Dumbledore's hand, and breaks down in tears. The entire school is consumed by grief as everyone gathers to honor him. Together, they raise their wands into the sky, and streams of brilliant white light drive away the darkness hanging over Hogwarts. The next day, Harry tells Ron and Hermione Granger everything that happened. But the three soon discover that the locket is only a fake. Inside is a note addressed to Voldemort, signed by R.B. It says that if he is reading the letter, then its writer is likely already dead. The real Horcrux has been taken, and it will be destroyed as soon as possible. The writer also hopes that one day Voldemort will truly die. Potter declares that he must leave this place and fulfill Dumbledore's final mission. But Hermione tells him he is not alone, his friends will always stand beside him. At that moment, they look up and see a phoenix soaring across the sky. And that is where the story ends. This chapter delivers a devastating blow to Potter, as the people he loves are taken from him one by one. But will those painful losses make Harry stronger, wiser, and ready for what lies ahead? We'll have to find out in the next part. Thank you all so much for supporting Sakura and helping this channel grow to where it is today. If you enjoyed this recap, please leave a like and share your thoughts about Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince in the comments below. And most importantly, don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss any of my latest movie recap videos. See you again soon, my dear friends. Today, I'll continue reviewing Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1. It begins in the darkest era the wizarding world has ever known. Rufus Scrimgeour has become the new Minister for Magic and promises to do everything he can to protect the people. But across every newspaper, reports of murdered Muggle families are growing more frequent by the day. Knowing the danger was closing in, Hermione Granger forces herself to do something heartbreaking. She erases her parents' memories of her, hoping to keep them safe. Meanwhile, Severus Snape arrives at a meeting of the Death Eaters and faces Lord Voldemort once again. The Dark Lord demands to know where Harry will be moved next, and Snape guesses it will be the home of a member of the Order of the Phoenix. Bellatrix Lestrange eagerly volunteers to kill Harry herself, but Voldemort declares that Harry belongs to him alone. There is one problem. However, Voldemort's wand and Harry's share the same core. They can wound each other, but neither can truly defeat the other. After thinking it through, Voldemort decides to borrow the wand of Lucius Malfoy, believing it to be the finest wand available. Moments later, he snaps off the snake-shaped head of Lucius S. Kane and drags forward the Hogwarts professor of Muggle studies. The Death Eaters mock her compassion and her belief that wizards and muggles could live peacefully together. She keeps looking at Snape, silently begging for help, but receives no mercy at all. Voldemort kills her without hesitation and feeds her body to Nagini. Elsewhere, Harry Potter is still haunted by the death of Albus Dumbledore. He packs his belongings and visits the cupboard under the stairs one last time. Suddenly, there is a knock at the door. Harry cautiously steps outside, only to find Rubeus Hagrid, his friends, and several members of the Order of the Phoenix waiting for him. He also meets Charlie Weasley, Ron's older brother. Then, Alastor Moody explains that they are here to move Harry to safety. But before the protective charm around Harry expires, they must travel by broomstick or thestral to avoid detection by the Ministry. Harry immediately objects the plan is far too dangerous for everyone else. Hermione wastes no time. She plucks one of Harry's hairs and drops it into Polyjuice Potion. Moody hands the potion around, and one by one they drink it. In seconds, the twins transform, and suddenly there are 7 Harry Potters standing in the room. They even change into matching clothes. Moody splits everyone into pairs. He chooses to travel with Mundungus Fletcher, while Harry rides with Hagrid. Their destination is the Burrow, the Weasley family home. But only moments after leaving, the Death Eaters launch a surprise attack. Spells explode through the air as they target the fake Harrys. Hagrid immediately accelerates, sending Harry soaring ahead before crashing down onto the highway. Harry fires a spell from the sidecar and hits one attacker, but another fires back, flipping a truck in front of them and blocking the road. Hagrid swerves into oncoming traffic, racing straight toward a line of speeding trucks. With no other choice, Hagrid drives up the tunnel wall and onto the roof. But the moment they land, a Death Eater-esque curse strikes him, knocking him unconscious. Harry grabs the controls and lifts them back into the sky. Enemies close in from every side, and with no free hand to cast properly, all he can do is dodge again and again. Then, from the distance, Hedwig swoops in and attacks the enemy. In the next instant, she throws herself in front of a killing curse meant for Harry, and dies. Harry can only watch in agony as his loyal friend falls into the darkness below. But in the very next moment, the scar on Harry's forehead suddenly burns with pain. Lord Voldemort appears right beside him. Harry raises his wand in desperation, and 2 blasts of light collide in midair. For a brief instant, Harry gains the upper hand, shattering the Dark Lord's borrowed wand before speeding away to escape. Along the way, Rubeus Hagrid regains consciousness, and they crash into the pond outside the burrow. Molly Weasley and Ginny Weasley rush out to greet them, while Remus Lupin and George Weasley stumble inside, both injured. Lupin immediately grabs Harry and slams him against the wall, demanding proof that he is the real Harry. He fears there is a traitor among them, someone who revealed the rescue plan to Voldemort. One by one, the others begin to return. Everyone is tense and suspicious. Hermione Granger runs straight into Ron Weasley's arms. Then Arthur Weasley and another family member burst through the door in panic. Thankfully, George has only lost one ear and is not in mortal danger. But just as relief settles in, devastating news arrives. Bill Weasley announces that Alastor Moody is dead. The moment they were ambushed, Mundungus Fletcher panicked and fled. That night, Harry once again dreams of Albus Dumbledore and hears the lingering message urging him to destroy the Horcruxes. When Harry wakes, he decides to leave alone, unwilling to drag anyone else into danger. But Ron catches him immediately and insists on coming. Harry says Ron can join if he wants. Yet Ron reminds him that without Hermione, they would never get far, and traveling alone would only make Harry an easy target for the enemy. In the end, Harry accepts Ron's advice and stays. The next morning is the wedding of Bill and Fleur Delacour. Harry notices a newspaper featuring a new book by Rita Skeeter titled The Life and Lies of Albus Dumbledore. Beside it is a tribute article honoring the late headmaster. A little later, Ginny asks Harry to help zip up her dress. The two share a quiet kiss, only to be accidentally spotted by George. Outside, Arthur and the others are preparing the wedding tent when Rufus Scrimgeour arrives. He brings with him Dumbledore's final will. In it, Dumbledore leaves Ron the Deluminator, a device of his own creation, hoping that when darkness closes in, Ron will still be able to find the light. Ron clicks it open, and a glowing spark flies out to extinguish two nearby lamps. Next, Hermione receives a copy of the Tales of Beedle the Bard. Finally, Harry is given the golden snitch he caught in his very first Quidditch match. The minister adds that Dumbledore also intended to leave Harry the sword of Godric Gryffindor. But the sword belongs to no one. It reveals itself only to those who are worthy. And now, mysteriously, it has vanished. Scrimgeour warns Harry not to act alone. That night, Bill and Fleur's wedding begins. For a short while, everyone forgets the war ahead and loses themselves in music and laughter. Harry reunites with Luna Lovegood and her father, and he notices the strange symbol hanging from the man's necklace. Later, Harry sits beside an elderly wizard, the same man who wrote Dumbledore's tribute in the morning paper. Then, an older witch approaches and says that if Rita Skeeter uncovered so many secrets about Dumbledore, it must have been through someone who knew his family well. Bathilda Bagshot, the famous magical historian now living in Godric's Hollow. At that very moment, the patroness of Kingsley Shacklebolt bursts into the celebration with terrifying news. The Ministry of Magic has fallen, Rufus Scrimgeour is dead, and the Death Eaters are on their way. Chaos erupts instantly. They storm the wedding, capturing many guests. Everyone fights back desperately, while Remus Lupin quickly disapparates Harry and his friends to a street in London. Hermione Granger pulls Harry and Ron Weasley into a narrow alley and takes several sets of clothes from her tiny enchanted bag. After changing, the three enter a cafe to decide their next move. But suddenly, two suspicious men appear. Harry instantly realizes they are Death Eaters disguised as ordinary people and warns the others to get down. A fierce battle breaks out moments later. Harry knocks one of them unconscious, while the second keeps attacking until Hermione paralyzes him with a spell. They tell the cafe owner to run for safety. Ron wants to kill both men to avenge Elastimudi, but Harry and Hermione decide to erase their memories instead. After that, the trio heads to the former home of Sirius Black. The moment they step inside, a ghostly white figure lunges at them. It is a magical defense system created to repel Death Eaters. That night, Harry dreams once again of Lord Voldemort torturing Garrick Ollivander, demanding to know the location of the most powerful wand in existence. He wakes and enters Sirius's room. Meanwhile, Ron discovers another room marked with the name Regulus Arcturus Black. Slowly, the three begin piecing everything together. Then Harry hears a strange noise. He carefully opens a cabinet door, and hiding inside is the house elf Creature. Harry immediately demands to know where the real locket is. Creature refuses to cooperate and even tries to attack Hermione. Harry is forced to use stronger magic to make him tell the truth. At last, Creature reveals that before his death, Regulus ordered him to destroy the locket. But no matter what he tried, he could not break it. Later, the locket was stolen by Mundungus Fletcher. Harry immediately commands Creature to find him and bring him back. Meanwhile, the new school year begins under a cloud of fear. Death Eaters openly stop the Hogwarts Express to search students, seize control of the Ministry, and completely reshape the system. Muggle-born employees are arrested, and wanted posters of Harry Potter appear everywhere. Mundungus is now hiding like a rat in a dark alley. Back at their safe house, Hermione teaches Ron defensive magic, while Harry keeps trying to open the golden snitch with no success. Sometime later, Creature returns, dragging Mundungus with him. By chance, Dobby spots them and appears as well. Hermione instantly disarms Mundungus and corners him. In the end, he confesses that he sold the locket to Dolores Umbridge. Now that they know where the Horcrux is, the trio secretly infiltrates the Ministry of Magic. They stun 3 employees and use Polyjuice Potion to take their forms. Then they split up and follow. Harry has no idea where the entrance is until Ron points to a door hidden beneath a toilet stall. Harry shudders at the disgusting sight, but steps inside anyway. With a single flush, he is pulled violently through the pipes and sent straight to the other side. The 3 blend into the crowd of Ministry workers. Suddenly, Ron Weasley receives notice that his wife is being put on trial, forcing him to separate and head to another floor. Harry Potter and Hermione Granger make their way to level 2, where they run into Dolores Umbridge. She immediately takes Hermione with her, leaving Harry alone to continue the mission. Harry secretly releases an enchanted orb. It instantly transforms into mischievous creatures that race through the newspaper production line, causing explosions and throwing the entire department into chaos. Using the distraction, Harry slips into Umbridge's office to search for the locket, but it is nowhere to be found. Instead, he discovers that she has been gathering information on members of the Order of the Phoenix. On the way back out, they see several Muggle-born witches and wizards being dragged away for trial. Ron's wife, Mary Cattermole, is being interrogated by Umbridge herself. Then Harry notices the Horcrux hanging around Umbridge's neck. Unable to stand the injustice any longer, he immediately casts a spell, knocks her unconscious, and Hermione quickly snatches the locket away. At once, the four of them make a run for it. A swarm of Dementors surges after them, but Harry casts his Patronus and drives them all back. Reaching the lower level, Ron tells Mary to flee while she still can. But at that exact moment, the real man Ron had been impersonating returns, exposing the trio. Now they have no choice but to run. A white-haired wizard charges after them, firing curses to stop their escape. Harry controls a storm of flying newspapers to wrap around him, while Ron blasts the man's wand away, causing the bronze gates to slam shut. Harry leaps through just in time. Ron follows, but the wizard grabs him first and leaves him badly wounded. Even so, Harry manages to escape with the locket. Hermione panics when she sees Ron's injury. She quickly pulls medicine from her enchanted bag and pours it onto his shoulder. The wound closes almost instantly. Afterward, she raises powerful protective enchantments around their lonely forest campsite. The next morning, the trio begins searching for a way to destroy the locket. They try burning it, freezing it, even smashing it, but nothing works. For now, Harry wears it around his neck while they search for another solution. Then the locket shows Harry a strange vision. After Lord Voldemort tortures Garrick Ollivander, the old wand maker reveals that the wand Voldemort seeks was taken long ago by a young wizard. Harry tells Hermione what he saw, convinced that Voldemort is hunting an extraordinary wand of immense power. But moments later, Harry suddenly lashes out at Hermione for no reason, speaking with shocking cruelty. Ron immediately orders him to remove the locket. The second Harry takes it off, he becomes calm again. Hermione realizes the Horcrux is poisoning the mind of whoever wears it, so the three decide to take turns carrying it. Through the radio, Harry hears the news that Severus Snape has become the new headmaster of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. That night, Hermione stands guard outside the tent when she spots three strangers approaching. She immediately turns invisible, but one of them can still smell her scent. Harry notices and rushes outside to join her. At that same moment, Ron steps out of the tent as well. The next day, it is Ron Weasley's turn to wear the locket. Combined with his already weakened condition, the Horcrux quickly begins to poison his mind. Dark thoughts grow stronger, and Ron starts to suspect that the bond between Harry Potter and Hermione Granger is no longer as innocent as it once was. One night, Hermione discovers that the sword of Godric Gryffindor was forged by goblins, meaning it can never be destroyed and only grows stronger over time. Long ago, Harry used a basilisk fang to destroy Tom Riddle's diary, and the sword itself had absorbed the venom of that deadly creature. That means the blade can now destroy the remaining Horcruxes. But at that very moment, Ron storms out in a rage. He accuses Harry and Hermione of treating him like he is invisible, while they grow closer without him. He is also furious that their endless journey seems pointless, because Harry still has no idea where to go next. The anger explodes into a bitter argument. Ron and Harry clash violently. Hermione tries to stop them and demands the locket back, but the darkness inside Ron has taken control. In the end, he turns his back on them and walks away. Hermione chooses to stay, desperately trying to explain, but Ron refuses to listen to another word. The following day, Harry and Hermione are forced to disapparate to a new hiding place. Hermione is heartbroken over Ron's departure, and Harry can only comfort his closest friend. For one brief moment, the two share a quiet dance to chase away the crushing sadness around them. The next morning, Harry studies the golden snitch once more. On impulse, he presses it to his lips. Instantly, words appear across its surface. I open at the close. Harry quickly tells Hermione what happened. At the same time, she has just found a strange symbol inside the old fairy tale book. Harry recognizes it immediately. It is the same mark on the necklace worn by Luna Lovegood's father. After discussing it, Harry suggests they travel together to Godric's Hollow. Hermione agrees. It is the birthplace of Godric Gryffindor, and perhaps the missing sword is hidden there as well. The two disapparate to the village where Harry was born. Passing the graveyard, they step inside. Hermione notices the same strange symbol carved onto a grave bearing the name Ignotus Peverell. She is about to call Harry over when she sees him standing silently before the graves of his parents. Without a word, Hermione uses magic to create a wreath and places it there. Then Harry senses someone watching them, as if trying to lead them somewhere. He believes it must be Bathilda Bagshot, so the two follow the mysterious figure. Along the way, They pass the ruined house where Harry's parents were murdered. Soon, they enter Bathilda's home. Harry helps light the room, while Hermione spots the book about Albus Dumbledore that Rita Skeeter had mentioned. They follow the old woman upstairs. She stares at the locket around Harry's neck and begins speaking in Parseltongue. The moment Harry turns away to look at an old photograph album, Bathilda suddenly transforms into the giant serpent Nagini. Hermione senses something is wrong, but before she can warn him, the monster lunges. Harry dives aside and uses a chair to block the attack. Nagini smashes through the wall and coils tightly around him. Harry grabs a brick from a floor and slams it into the snake's head. As he crawls toward the exit, Hermione rushes in and fires spells at Nagini. She snatches up Harry's fallen wand, but the beast still isn't dead and charges again. Hermione instantly unleashes flames at the creature, then grabs Harry and disapparates them both to safety. The two reappear in a snowy forest, a place where Hermione Granger once visited with her parents. Her heart breaks as she remembers that in their minds, she no longer exists at all. Only then does Harry Potter remember his wand. Hermione sadly hands it back to him. It was shattered during the battle. With no other choice, Harry puts the locket back on and borrows Hermione's wand while he keeps watch. At midnight, Harry sees a silver Patronus in the shape of a doe appear in the distance. He immediately follows it through the dark forest until it reaches the edge of a frozen lake. The doe leads him to a spot in the center of the ice, then vanishes without a trace. Beneath the frozen surface, Harry sees the sword resting deep below. Without hesitation, he melts the ice and dives into the freezing water. But sensing danger, the locket tightens around Harry's neck like a noose. He struggles desperately beneath the icy surface, unable to rise for air. Just when all hope seems lost, someone else suddenly leaps into the water. The stranger grabs the sword, then pulls Harry back to shore. The person who saved him is none other than Ron Weasley. Harry explains that the doe was not his Patronus. Then, he tells Ron to destroy the locket. Together they count 1, 2, 3, and Harry opens it. Instantly, a burst of black energy erupts from inside. The Horcrux begins to speak. It declares that it sees straight into Ron's soul, knows every desire and every fear hidden in his heart. It feeds his jealousy and bitterness, then creates a cruel vision of Harry and Hermione standing together while Ron is left behind. But in the end, Ron overcomes it all and drives the sword through the locket, shattering it forever. When Hermione wakes and sees the two of them have returned, she does not react with joy. Instead, she storms forward in anger, shouting and pushing Ron away. All he can do is apologize, admitting he wanted to come back long ago, but had no idea how to find them. Luckily, the Deluminator suddenly spoke with Hermione's voice. When Ron opened it, a tiny ball of light flew out and entered his chest. Guided by that magic, Ron was able to disapparate and find Harry. After that, Ron gives Harry a wand he took from a group of snatchers. Harry tests it, but the blast of fire it produces is so powerful that even he is shocked. Now Hermione suggests they visit Xenophilius Lovegood, Luna Lovegood's father, to ask about the mysterious symbol. She has just found the same mark, a triangle, with a circle inside hidden in the old storybook. So the next day, all three travel to the home of the Lovegoods. Harry asks Xenophilius about the symbol on the necklace. He tells them it is the sign of the Deathly Hallows. Long ago, 3 brothers came upon a raging river. They used magic to create a bridge and cross safely. This enraged Death itself, because many others had drowned there before. Pretending to reward them, Death offered each brother a gift. The eldest brother asked for the most powerful wand in existence. The second wanted the power to bring back the dead. And the youngest brother wished only to escape Death's pursuit. So Death was forced to give him its own invisibility cloak. The eldest brother became unbeatable with the wand in his hand, but was later murdered by another man who stole it for himself. The second brother returned home and used his gift to bring back the fiancée he had lost. But she could never truly belong in the world of the living, and when she faded away once more, he ended his own life in despair. Only the youngest brother lived safely into old age. When his time finally came, he greeted Death not with fear, but like an old friend. Those 3 objects together became known as the Deathly Hallows. Whoever possessed all 3 would become the master of death itself. The grave Hermione Granger had seen in Godric's Hollow belonged to one of the 3 brothers who once held a hallow. At that moment, Xenophilius Lovegood excuses himself to make tea, but secretly goes downstairs. The trio prepare to leave, Yet he suddenly blocks the door and refuses to let them go. Then he confesses the truth: Luna Lovegood has been captured, and he was forced to reveal Harry's location in exchange for his daughter's safety. Right then, the Death Eaters storm the house and tear it apart. Harry, Hermione, and Ron Weasley barely manage to grab each other and to separate back to the forest. But the moment they arrive, they run straight into a group of snatchers. Realizing the danger, the three try to flee immediately, but the attackers strike hard, knocking Ron to the ground. Hermione fights back with her wand, and in one desperate instant, she casts a spell that horribly distorts Harry's face to hide his identity. At the same time, Harry sees another vision inside Lord Voldemort's mind. Voldemort is questioning Garrick Ollivander about the Elder Wand. The old wand maker reveals that it was buried with Albus Dumbledore. Harry quickly tells Hermione, but all three are captured before they can escape. Harry tries to claim his name is Dudley, but the Snatchers do not believe him. One of them notices the scar on his forehead and immediately drags the trio to Malfoy Manor to claim a reward. Bellatrix Lestrange orders Draco Malfoy to identify Harry, but he pretends not to know. Lucius Malfoy forces his son closer for a better look. Then Bellatrix spots the sword of Godric Gryffindor and panics instantly. In the chaos, Harry asks Dobby to help Luna and Ollivander escape. The little house elf grabs them and disapparates away at once. When Peter Pettigrew enters the room, Ron knocks him unconscious. The two race upstairs and find Hermione lying on the floor while Bellatrix tortures Griphook. Unable to bear it any longer, Ron charges at Bellatrix. Lucius draws his wand, only for Harry to blast it from his hand. A brutal fight erupts. Bellatrix seizes Hermione as a hostage to force them back. At the same time, the spell disguising Harry's face begins to wear off. Bellatrix immediately orders Voldemort to be summoned. Draco hesitates, too afraid to act, so Lucius steps forward himself. At that exact moment, Dobby drops the massive chandelier from the ceiling. Bellatrix dodges it, but Hermione breaks free. Harry snatches Draco's wand and knocks Lucius down. Dobby disarms the Death Eaters one by one, then takes everyone's hands and disapparates them out of the manor. Bellatrix, screaming in rage, hurls her knife after them. And tragically, it strikes Dobby. Harry falls to his knees and holds him in despair, but the loyal elf dies in his arms. Later, they bury Dobby with their own hands beside the sea. Meanwhile, Dumbledore's tomb is shattered open. Voldemort claims the Elder Wand, one of the Deathly Hallows. He raises it high and fires a beam of light into the sky, summoning a violent storm. And that is where the film ends. Gone are the warmth, laughter, and wonder of the earlier chapters. Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1 covers the story in darkness. Harry continues to lose the people he loves most, and from this point on, he must become stronger than ever before to face the final shadow rising against him. In the previous part, Voldemort finally seized the Elder Wand from the tomb of Professor Dumbledore. Now, the Order of the Phoenix has established a new headquarters at the home of Bill and Fleur. Harry's group meets with the Goblin Griphook, the very one who once guided Harry into the vaults of Gringotts. He asks Harry where he got the sword. Potter explains that it appeared to him on its own, not stolen from Bellatrix's vault. Griphook then reveals that Professor Snape placed a fake sword inside Bellatrix's vault. Harry cannot understand why he would do that, but he begins to suspect that Bellatrix may be hiding a Horcrux there. To break into the vault, they need Griphook's help, and they offer him plenty of gold in return. But Griphook demands the sword of Gryffindor instead. Harry has no choice but to agree. After that, the three friends visit Mr. Ollivander. Harry asks him to examine the wands they captured at Malfoy Manor. Ollivander says Draco's wand seems to have changed its allegiance. Harry then questions him about the Deathly Hallows. Ollivander explains that they are three legendary objects: the Elder Wand, the Invisibility Cloak, and the Resurrection Stone. United together, they make their owner the Master of Death. Harry realizes Ollivander had revealed the location of the Elder Wand to Voldemort. The old wand maker thought he was only speaking nonsense, but never imagined Voldemort would truly obtain it. With sorrow in his voice, he says that if this is true, Harry may have no chance of winning. Soon after, Hermione uses Polyjuice Potion to transform into Bellatrix, and the four of them apparate to the Goblin Bank. Harry carries Griphook on his back and hides beneath the invisibility cloak. As they enter Gringotts, Hermione is asked to present identification. Her hesitation immediately makes the manager suspicious. Just as the guards are about to rush in, Potter quickly uses a controlling spell on him. Because of that, the goblin manager allows them to pass. Once inside, Griphook drives them in a cart down toward the vault. They race through the tunnels, but after crossing a magical waterfall, the cart suddenly stops and throws everyone onto the ground below. They move forward and discover a giant white dragon chained in captivity. Griphook skillfully uses clackers to create sharp sounds, causing the terrified beast to shrink aside. Inside the vault lies a mountain of treasure made of gold and silver. Harry spots Hufflepuff's cup, but before he can grab it, the objects are cursed to multiply, expanding into a sea of golden treasure. Harry uses the sword to stab the cup, then rises from the pile of goblets. But Griphook seizes the moment to snatch the sword and abandons them, fleeing at once. When the three friends chase their way back outside, the manager has already been burned alive by raging fire, while guards storm in from every side and attack relentlessly. Hermione quickly comes up with a plan, telling everyone to jump onto the dragon's back and set it free. The dragon instantly breathes fire, wiping out their enemies before climbing upward. The goblins continue chasing Harry's group in their carts, but the dragon smashes the rails apart, sending the goblins flying high into the air and far away. The fire dragon burst out from beneath the earth, breathing flames that roasted the goblins alive, shattering Gringotts before soaring into the sky. As it passed over a lake, the three friends leapt into the water below. Harry's mind connected once again with the Dark Lord, and he saw Voldemort in a frenzy, slaughtering every goblin in the bank, including Griphook. The sword in the goblin's hand slowly vanished. At the same time, Voldemort accidentally revealed a clue about another Horcrux hidden within Hogwarts. Potter quickly told his friends everything he had seen. But now that Professor Snape was headmaster, entering the school would be nearly impossible. So the three of them apparat to the village of Hogsmeade beside the castle. There, they ran straight into a patrol of Death Eaters. The group hid in a corner booth, holding their breath. Just as they were about to be discovered, a mysterious voice suddenly called for Potter to follow. The three of them were led into a small house whose walls were covered in portraits, one of them even showing Harry himself. An old man then stepped forward. It was Aberforth, Dumbledore's younger brother, and the one who had sent Dobby to rescue them. Harry explained that he needed to enter Hogwarts to find the Horcrux, but Aberforth urged him to go home instead. He warned Harry that this mission was nothing less than suicide, and that Dumbledore was never worthy of trust. Harry, furious, declared that he still believed in his old mentor. Only then did Aberforth turn to speak with the girl inside one of the paintings, his younger sister Ariana, who had died long ago. She disappeared, and moments later returned with Neville. Overjoyed, Neville led the three through a secret tunnel into the Room of Requirement, where they were reunited with old members of Dumbledore's army. Their friends rushed forward and embraced Harry with joy. Soon after, Potter explained that he needed to find something inside the castle, something connected to Ravenclaw, though he had no idea what it was. Luna suggested it might be Ravenclaw's lost diadem, missing for over 2 centuries. Just then, Seamus came running in panic with news that Snape had discovered Harry was back. The headmaster immediately summoned every student to the Great Hall, declaring that anyone hiding Harry would be severely punished, teacher or student alike. Before Snape could begin his search, Potter stepped out on his own. Moments later, the Aurors marched proudly into the hall as well. Harry exposed Snape as a traitor, the man who had murdered Professor Dumbledore. Snape raised his wand to strike Harry, but McGonagall stepped in first. She unleashed a barrage of spells so fierce that he could barely defend himself. In the next instant, Snape transformed into a cloud of black smoke and escaped through the window. The moment he was driven away, McGonagall ignited the protective lights of the castle. Then suddenly, pain struck everyone's minds. The torches went dark, and screams echoed through the hall. Voldemort's voice rang out across Hogwarts. He declared that if Harry Potter were handed over, the school would be spared. While nearly everyone stood with Potter, the students of Slytherin wanted to seize him and turn him in. At once, Professor McGonagall ordered Professor Flitwick to lock them away in the dungeons. Next, Harry tells McGonagall to buy him as much time as possible while he searches for the Horcrux. Outside, she summons an army of stone statues to guard the gates. These ancient knights are awakened for one purpose alone: to defend Hogwarts from danger. It is a rare form of magic, used only in the darkest of times. The remaining teachers and Aurors then cast powerful spells, forming a great shield of light over the entire castle and driving away the Dementors of Azkaban. Inside, Luna runs after Harry and suggests he speak with the ghost of Helena Ravenclaw, the daughter of Rowena Ravenclaw. Harry goes to Ravenclaw Tower and claims that he is Luna's boyfriend, hoping to gain her trust and ask for help finding the diadem. Shy and guarded, Helena hides herself and refuses to speak. Harry tells her he wants to destroy it forever, but she does not believe him. After a long struggle of words, she finally reveals that the diadem is hidden inside the Room of Requirement. Beyond the castle walls, Voldemort has gathered his Death Eaters. They unleash wave after wave of blazing spells toward Hogwarts. At first, the attacks seem harmless, but their true power is overwhelming. The invisible barrier begins to crack under the relentless assault. At the edge of the forest, Voldemort's army also charges forward. Yet the moment they touch the shield, many of them are blasted apart. Deep below the castle, Ron uses the secret phrase he once heard Harry speak and successfully opens the Chamber of Secrets. Inside, he pulls out several basilisk fangs and hands them to Hermione. The moment she takes one, she drives it straight into Hufflepuff's cup. Water rises violently around them, taking the shape of a giant serpent lunging to devour them. But it is only a fragment of Voldemort's soul being destroyed. As the danger fades, Ron and Hermione throw themselves into each other's arms and share a long, heartfelt kiss. Outside, Voldemort feels another part of his power vanish. He realizes yet another Horcrux has been destroyed. Enraged and desperate, he sets the barrier ablaze. The Elder Wand, wielding the power of death itself, burns through the magical shield. Piece by piece, the barrier chars, crumbles, and disappears entirely. Seeing their chance, Voldemort's followers rush into the grounds. They chase Neville across the bridge. Once they are all on it, Neville destroys the bridge beneath them, sending the entire group to their deaths. He falls as well, but somehow manages to climb back to safety. Outside, the Death Eaters transform into black smoke and sweep across the stone bridge, firing curses in every direction. The mighty stone knights stand tall against the giants, striking them down, while enchanted ropes wrap around the monsters and hold them back. But the enemy numbers are too great. In only a short time, nearly all of the Stone Guardians are smashed to pieces. The Death Eaters then storm into the school grounds, attacking students and turning the battlefield into total chaos. Meanwhile, the Slytherin students seize the confusion as a chance to flee. Ginny quickly grabs two classmates and drags them along to help search for Harry. At the same time, Ron and Hermione, now armed with basilisk fangs, study the Marauder's map and notice that Potter has suddenly vanished. In a rare flash of brilliance, Ron realizes exactly where Harry must have gone: the Room of Requirement. After entering the room, Harry stands frozen in shock. The hidden chamber looks less like a storage space and more like a giant marketplace overflowing with endless piles of forgotten objects. He walks deeper inside, with no idea where to begin searching. Then suddenly, a strange instinct guides him toward a box behind his back. Harry opens it, and inside lies the lost diadem of Rowena Ravenclaw. At that exact moment, Draco and his group arrive. Draco only wants his wand back, taking the chance. Potter asks why Draco did not expose him to Bellatrix that day at the manor. Before Draco can answer, Ron and Hermione rush in as well. Thinking they are attacking Harry, Hermione fires back immediately, sending the diadem flying into the mountain of clutter. Harry and Hermione scramble over the towering piles of objects, desperately searching through the chaos. By pure luck, they recover the diadem, but then Ron charges toward them and drags them away, because behind him rises a monstrous wall of fire, a giant serpent made from fiend fire, unleashed by Crabbe and now far beyond his control. The cursed flames spread wildly, threatening to consume the entire room. Harry's group runs for their lives. Meanwhile, Draco and the others can only climb higher to escape. Crabbe loses his grip and falls into the sea of fire below. As he falls, Ron spots a pile of old broomsticks nearby. The three friends grab them and soar into the air. But Harry suddenly turns back, determined to save Draco and Goyle as well. Once they all escape, Draco and Goyle flee without a word. Harry then quickly grabs a basilisk fang and drives it into the diadem. A stream of black smoke bursts out from within. Ron reacts instantly, kicking it back into the Room of Requirement. The door slams shut just before the flames, now twisted into Voldemort's face, can burst through. Far away, the Dark Lord doubles, over in pain, and grows weaker. Taking Nagini with him, he retreats. When Harry collapses, his connection returns, and he finally understands the truth. Nagini is the last Horcrux. Ron urges him to focus on where Voldemort is now. Through the vision, Harry sees Voldemort ordering Lucius to bring Professor Snape before him. The three friends then head back outside. Students are still locked in a desperate battle against the Death Eaters. A giant spots them, forcing them to hide beneath a bridge. Moments later, they run into giant spiders and must fight while fleeing toward the gates. But when they finally reach the entrance, Dementors swoop down from the darkness. Just as all hope seems lost, a brilliant burst of light drives them back. It is Aberforth. Harry's group immediately races to the boathouse by the lake, hiding nearby, as they overhear Voldemort condemning Snape. He believes Snape is the true master of the Elder Wand, because Snape was the one who killed Dumbledore. Without hesitation, Voldemort orders Nagini to strike, and Snape is fatally wounded before the Dark Lord walks away. When Harry and the others rush inside, they find Snape dying on the floor. With his final strength, he tells Harry to collect his tears and take them to the pensieve. Moments later, he passes away. Then suddenly, Voldemort's voice echoes across the battlefield once more. He orders his forces to withdraw and commands Harry to come alone into the Forbidden Forest. If Harry refuses, every one of his friends will die. When the three friends return, Hogwarts has become a shattered ruin. Inside the Great Hall, the dead and wounded lie everywhere. Ron and the Weasley family are devastated by the loss of Fred, Ron's twin brother. They collapse into each other's arms, crying in grief. Nearby, Professor Lupin and Tonks have also fallen in battle. Heartbroken, Harry walks to Dumbledore's office and pours Snape's tears into the pensieve. Inside, he witnesses the hidden truth of the past. From childhood, his mother Lily possessed magical abilities and was always looked down upon by her sister. Not long after, Lily met young Snape near a hollow tree. The two quickly became inseparable friends. But when they arrived at Hogwarts, their paths began to divide. Snape was sorted into Slytherin, while Lily entered Gryffindor. There, she met Harry's father, grew close to him, and eventually fell in love. As the years passed, Snape became a Death Eater. One day, he overheard a prophecy foretelling that a boy would soon be born with the power to destroy the Dark Lord. Realizing Lily was about to have a son, Snape desperately begged Dumbledore to protect her family. But fate could not be changed. By the time Snape arrived at the house, Lily had already been murdered by Voldemort. Broken by grief, he agreed to Dumbledore's request to protect Harry, on one condition, that the truth must remain secret. Dumbledore himself had already been cursed, and knew he had little time left. So he devised a final plan and asked Snape to be the one to kill him. He also revealed that on the night Lily sacrificed herself, her magic rebounded Voldemort's curse. In that moment, a fragment of Voldemort's soul attached itself to Harry before the Dark Lord vanished. Harry himself had become a Horcrux, meaning he would have to die for Voldemort to be destroyed completely. Snape then cast his Patronus Ado, identical to Lily's Patronus, the same shining doe Harry had once followed through the forest. After seeing everything, Harry is left shaken to his core. He finally understands that Snape had loved his mother for his entire life. Afterward, Harry goes outside and meets his two best friends. He tells them that he is Voldemort's final Horcrux. Hermione is shattered and begs to go into the forest with him, but Harry embraces her goodbye and walks away alone. Potter enters the forest by himself. He takes out the golden snitch, whispers that he is ready to die, and kisses it. The snitch opens, revealing the resurrection stone hidden inside. At once, Harry sees his parents, Sirius, and Lupin standing before him. They comfort him, encourage him, and remind him that they have always lived within Harry's heart. Strengthened by their courage, Harry walks deeper into the forest. Just as the Dark Lord begins to believe he will never come, Potter appears from the shadows. He sees Hagrid being held captive by Voldemort's forces. Then Harry calmly closes his eyes and accepts the killing curse meant for him. When Harry opens his eyes again, he finds himself at King's Cross Station, but everything around him is bathed in an unnatural white light. He walks forward and notices a twisted, broken fragment of Voldemort lying helpless on the ground. From the distance, Dumbledore approaches and gently says that no one can help that creature now. Dumbledore explains that Harry is not truly dead. Voldemort has only destroyed the Horcrux living inside him. He tells Harry that the choice is now his: return and continue the fight, or move on beyond this place. Harry hesitates, believing that even if he returns, he can never defeat Voldemort. Dumbledore smiles kindly and reminds him that help will always be given at Hogwarts to those who deserve it. Then the old wizard slowly walks forward and fades away. Back in the Forbidden Forest, Voldemort awakens and orders someone to check whether Harry is truly dead. Narcissa Malfoy steps forward, kneels beside him, and quietly asks if her son Draco is still alive. Harry gives the slightest nod. Because of that, she lies to the Dark Lord and declares that Potter is dead. Delighted, Voldemort leads his army back to Hogwarts. Everyone is crushed when they see Harry's lifeless body carried in Hagrid's arms. Voldemort offers the survivors one final choice: join him or die. First, the Malfoy family calls for their son. Draco hesitates for a moment, then slowly crosses over. But then comes the greatest surprise of all. Neville steps forward. Yet he does not join Voldemort. Instead, he shouts for everyone not to give up, to keep fighting for those who have already fallen. As the Death Eaters laugh at him, Neville suddenly pulls the sword of Gryffindor from the sorting hat itself. At that same instant, Harry springs to life, rolls to the ground, and charges toward Nagini, but he is 1 second too late. The Death Eaters lose all confidence and erupt into panic. Some flee immediately, including the Malfoy family. Voldemort, enraged, chases after Potter, while Harry runs back into the castle. Harry hides behind a pillar and launches a surprise attack, but Voldemort easily dodges and retaliates with savage force. Then the Dark Lord suddenly vanishes, only to reappear behind Harry. Potter barely blocks one curse, yet the impact hurls him backward straight toward Nagini. Harry immediately charges forward to destroy Nagini, but Voldemort strikes first with a dark curse. Harry barely dodges in time and dives to the lower level. Nagini slithers after him, only to run into Hermione. She grabs stones and hurls them at the serpent. The snake corners her against the wall, and Ron rushes in to stab it, but Nagini lashes back, knocking the basilisk fang from his hand. Outside, Bellatrix is about to kill Ginny when Molly Weasley throws herself in front of her daughter and takes the fight instead. At first, Molly is forced backward by Bellatrix's attacks. But in the next moment, driven by the fury of protecting her family, she unleashes all her power and blasts Bellatrix apart into nothing. Inside the castle, Voldemort drives Harry onto a wooden bridge. Harry resists, but the bridge collapses beneath him, sending him crashing to the ground below. Before he can rise, Voldemort binds him in magical ropes. Harry crawls away, only to be strangled, thrown down, and struck across the face. Harry tells him that the Elder Wand will never truly obey him. Voldemort casts again, but still cannot kill Harry. As Harry lures him toward the edge, he suddenly grabs Voldemort and hurls them both into the abyss below. Panicked, Voldemort flies upward in desperation, smashing both of them through towers and walls before they crash into the courtyard. Bleeding and battered, they crawl toward their wands and prepare for the final duel. Just when it seems Harry can no longer hold on, inside the castle Nagini is about to kill Hermione and Ron. At that critical instant, Neville rises, charges forward, and swings the sword of Gryffindor, severing the serpent's head. With the last Horcrux destroyed, Voldemort is reduced to nothing more than an empty shell. His power fades in an instant. Harry seizes the chance and unleashes the greatest spell of his life. The red light from his wand slowly devours Voldemort's green curse. Voldemort's hand withers like a corpse, and the Elder Wand returns to its true master Harry. Defeated at last, the Dark Lord can only scream in despair before crumbling into ashes. Potter returns to the castle and reunites with his friends and teachers. All around him, people are tending to the wounded and clearing the ruins of war. Overcome with emotion, Harry embraces Hagrid tightly. Later, Harry speaks privately with his two best friends. Hermione asks why the wand would not obey Voldemort. Harry explains that the one who disarmed Dumbledore was not Professor Snape, but Draco. In that moment, the wand had chosen Draco as its true master. But after escaping from Malfoy Manor, it was Harry who disarmed Draco. Because of that, the wand now recognized Harry as its true master. Ron joked that this meant Harry might be the most powerful wizard alive. Yet in front of his two best friends, Harry simply snapped the wand in half and cast it away. Then the three of them clasped hands together and looked toward a brighter tomorrow. 19 years later, children once again push their trunks through King's Cross Station. They run straight through the wall and vanish onto platform 9 3/4. Those two boys and little girl are the children of Harry and Ginny. On the platform, they notice the Malfoy family saying goodbye to their own son. Soon after, they meet Ron and Hermione, who now have 2 children of their own as well. Harry sees that his second son, Albus Severus Potter, is deeply nervous. Gently, he tells the boy that Severus was the name of one of the bravest men he had ever known. Then Harry embraces his son. The young boy boards a train, smiling at last. And so, the greatest trio of friends ever to appear on screen is seen together one final time. And if you look closely, you will notice that the scar on Harry Potter's forehead no longer hurts. This is where the story ends. There is no denying that Harry Potter is one of the greatest fantasy sagas of all time. Though it began as a story for children, its film adaptation captured the hearts of adults and even the most demanding audiences around the world. Beyond its thrilling adventures and unforgettable battles, the series also delivers powerful messages about the love of family, the strength of true friendship that no force can break, and the lesson that appearances should never define who someone truly is.